Sure.
Turks, Jake Uger, Anna Kasparian with you guys. As usual, wild and woolly day. In fact, we are literally going to start woolly with Bigfoot in a second. It's a big day today, but it's also a big day for the next 3 days on the air. So tomorrow, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the Power Panel. So not as a guest, but as one of the hosts. She will be hosting the first hour along with me, Anna, and Nando Vila is going to be back from Fusion with us. And then the second hour, we're going to have James Thompson also host with us. He is one of the Just Democrats running in Kansas. Excellent power panel tomorrow. Don't miss it. And we're going to address some of the things the mainstream media has been getting wrong. So that ought to be fantastic. And on Monday at 5:05, right after the show, that's 5:05 Pacific, 8:05 Eastern, we are going to have 9 Just Democrats up for election on Tuesday night. They're all going to come on the Young Turks, make one last pitch, and then Tuesday night, it's make or break. One of the biggest primary nights of the entire season. You've got Kansas there with Brent Welder and James Thompson. You've got Missouri with Corey Bush. There's so many of them, I can't list them all, but Michigan, Washington. Wonderful, wonderful candidates. Are they going to win or are they going to go home? So I'm already nervous, really, really nervous. So either it's going to be jubilant on Tuesday night or the opposite. So don't miss any of that coverage. You can watch it on tyt.com/live. Of course, we now have our app on both iOS and Android. So tyt.com/app. And you just watch the live coverage on your phone anywhere you want. And of course, you get all the shows as well, including podcasts of Anna's show, No Filter. And soon we'll have the damage report on there as well. We already have clips, but we want to try to bring you the whole audio show of John Idarola's show. And of course, everybody gets every minute of every show if you're a member. tytnetwork.com/join to become a member. You guys make Home of Progressives possible. So now, having said that, we start with fun before we crash into Trump.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Oftentimes, it's incredibly frustrating to see Democratic candidates refuse to fight and be on the offense when it comes to several political issues. Now, Leslie Cockburn, who is a Democratic House candidate from the state of Virginia, does not match that description of Democrats. She is going in guns blazing against her Republican opponent, and her attacks are different from what you'd expect. But nonetheless, I love it. So, she goes after Republican Denver Riggleman. Okay, there he is. And here is an example of one of her attacks. She says, quote, "My opponent, Denver Riggleman, running mate of Corey Stewart, was caught on camera campaigning with a white supremacist. Now he has been exposed as a devotee of Bigfoot erotica. This is not what we need on Capitol Hill." You know what? I agree with you. I don't begrudge anyone who's into Bigfoot erotica, but I'd like them to kind of keep that in their own personal lives. You know, I don't want our politicians talking about their fetishes. Now, he said that he did write an anthropological book.
Yeah. Oh, great.
It's so good. Sort of based on parody and satire, which has been a running joke with a bunch of military pals for the past 14 years. Apparently, he and his friends in the past had exchanged Bigfoot erotica imagery on social media, Twitter, I believe.
Well, of course they did. Then they thought the guy had Bigfoot hair.
He had beautiful hair.
But they did
rough talk him and run him off.
So if you guys missed it, that was one of the best reports CNN has ever done, and one of our favorite segments ever on the Young Turks. When they went and talked to a guy who thought he saw basically Bigfoot.
Right.
But don't worry, like he said, he rough talked him and run him off. He told him, yeah, beautiful hair, 6 fingers. Okay. Now there's a guy like that running for Congress. Okay.
No, I love all of this because, attacking him for aligning himself with, white supremacists, that makes all the sense in the world. That's to be expected. But then in the same tweet, out of nowhere, come the Bigfoot attacks. And I just love it, right? Be ruthless, be strong, be powerful.
Yes, well, that's the serious message here, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But hold on, I'm not done with Bigfoot yet. So, Riggleman, this is no joke. he's really, really into Bigfoot. I don't know how particular which way he's going with Bigfoot, but I don't know if he's getting Bigfooted or he's doing the Bigfooting. Okay, but listen, he bragged about a book he's got coming out recently called "The Mating Habits of Bigfoot and Why Women Want Him." First of all, do they?
No. Okay, hold. But my favorite thing is when you hear like middle-aged right-wing men like make declarative statements about what women want.
No.
Because who would know any better than they would, right?
No.
They know what I want better than I do.
No, Rickleman knows. He knows. He knows you want Bigfoot. You're saying shit. But instead, you're thinking he's got
beautiful hair.
So, all right, wait, I'm not done yet. He had another book. 2 books on Bigfoot. Unbelievable. More than a decade ago, it was titled Bigfoot Exterminators Incorporated. The partially cautionary, mostly true tale of monster hunt 2006.
Are these really books that he published?
Yeah, it says co-wrote a book, and he says he's got a new book release coming out in about a month or two.
On this?
I mean, one was, I guess, hunting Bigfoot, which I suppose is a little bit more normal. These days, in Republican circles, you only believe in Bigfoot and believe in hunting him. Oh, that's nothing. At least you don't want to have sex with him. I mean, that's the state of the Republican Party. The other one was the mating habits of Bigfoot and why women want him. Okay.
How do you know anything about the mating habits of Bigfoot? Like, anyway. Okay, so, by the way,
yeah.
Go ahead. He says, I do not believe that Bigfoot is real, to be fair to him. He also says that he does not want to alienate any Bigfoot voters. So, look,
Is that last part a joke, or is he serious? I can't tell with Republicans anymore.
No, I think, look, to be fair to him, on this whole Bigfoot thing, he's having fun with it, I hope. I don't think that he's being serious.
I guess. But, alright, so, before I get back to him, though, I gotta say...
Instead of them, him.
Yeah. So, I found somebody, because of this story, people started writing about Bigfoot fetishes. Okay, so I love all these titles that was actually helping to post that found them all. One of them is called 2 Big Feet, 1 Big... ... Apparently, this one is kind of a common theme, but that people are worried that it has racial undertones. Captured by Bigfoot. Okay, I don't know why it's racial. I don't want to even get into that. Okay, anyway.
I don't think you're ready for this Yeti.
Yeah, no. Okay, it's not Yeti. Too soon. Okay, hold on. I'm not done. 2 more. No, 3 more. One book is called Bigfoot Depravity. But people are into this. I love it, brothers and sisters. I don't care about your fetishes. Have at it, Hoss. But people endlessly amuse me. Another one. Hounded by President Bigfoot.
No, wait, hold on. These are books? Or?
These are erotica.
Erotica,
yes.
okay.
Apparently there is a prolific erotica writer by the name of Chuck Tingle. And he's... of course that's his name, of course. He's the one who wrote Pounded by President Bigfoot. And finally, his last bestseller was Bigfoot Pirates Haunt My Balls.
No, come on.
This is literal. I'm not making it up. Say that I'm thrilled that nothing has ever haunted my balls, let alone Bigfoot. So, back to something serious for a second. finally a Democrat fighting fire with fire. You know, the Republicans make up stuff about Democrats and just smear them left and right, left and right. Now, here's a Democrat, by the way, named Cockburn. God bless her heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just... No, but her last name's Cockburn.
In this story.
Yes, in this story, and I love it. I love every part of this.
Yeah. No, but in all kidding aside, she's fantastic because, and this is a really interesting race. Fifth district in Virginia is Charlottesville. And that is a district that had one of the biggest anti-Muslim bigot in Congress. And then Tom Perriello, a wonderful progressive, won that back in the day. That district has gone back and forth. So it's actually a really important district in the country. But Leslie Cockburn has got the right attitude here, which is, no, if you're going to write Bigfoot erotica, I'm coming for you. Okay, you might be coming for Bigfoot, but I'm coming for you. Okay, so she's like, I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to tell people that this is what you're into. And if they like it and they're like, bravo, Bigfoot erotica enthusiasts, okay, great, then they'll vote for you. But goddamn right that it's time we started fighting back.
Right.
So I love her attitude.
So, and I want to also be clear about one other thing. So in terms of the Bigfoot erotica, I think in the old school way of thinking, as someone on the left, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't harm anyone. If that's what he's into, who cares? Why attack him on that? But that is exactly the type of thing that Republicans would attack a Democratic candidate
they'd
for, right?
Destroy a Democratic candidate over it. Imagine if she'd written Bigfoot erotica.
Right.
All of his ads would be about Bigfoot erotica. Every one of them.
Every single one.
And now he pretends to be outraged. Please, spare me.
Exactly.
He put pictures of his own head. He says military buddies. His excuse for everything is military buddies. And then with a giant big ... but censored out, and his picture on Bigfoot's body, and then the thing. I mean, if a Democrat had done that, they'd be like, oh, you're done. In fact, you know what would happen? The Democratic Party would drive that person out. They're like, oh no, it's going to be a distraction. It's going to be a distraction. Please leave. You got to leave the party right away, right?
Yeah.
And they do a circular firing squad. So, all right, well, two could play that game.
Exactly.
So if you're into Bigfoot, at least the voters deserve to know.
They just deserve to know. I mean...
And we'll see if he winds up Bigfooting the bill.
Okay.
That was a schwang ending. But otherwise fun story.
Very fun. Wanted to start off with something different today. But with that said, we do have a lot of other news to get to, so let's get started. A number of Trump administration officials did a press briefing today on the issue of the upcoming midterm elections and the fact that, yes, Russians are still trying to infiltrate and meddle in our election, especially this upcoming one. And it's important that they address it because there has been some mixed signals coming from the White House, specifically from Donald Trump. Now, this press conference seems to attempt to do some damage control following Donald Trump's statements that are highly favorable toward Russia. But nonetheless, what you're about to hear from people like Dan Coats, the Director of National Security, is important, and it does show you that there are at least some administration officials who are aware of this and are attempting to do something about it. Let's take a look.
We continue to see a pervasive messaging campaign by Russia to try to weaken and divide the United States.
Okay, so there's Dan Coats. Again, that is the Director of National Security. Kirstjen Nielsen also was part of this press briefing, and she also addresses Russia here. So let's take a look at what she has to say.
Free and fair elections are the cornerstone of our democracy, and it has become clear that they are the target of our adversaries, who seek, as the DNI just said, to sow discord and undermine our way of life.
So, Jake, I feel like this press briefing is a little surprising. It's surprising to me because it's one of the first times you see a concerted effort by Trump administration officials to really address this issue and show that they're taking it seriously. Trump was not part of this press briefing. He didn't release any statement in regard to what was said during the briefing. I just feel like there's this damage control element to all of this.
Yeah, actually, I don't find the damage control weird. I find other things that were said weird in this press conference. It's fairly normal for them to want to do damage control because they have the intelligence. They know Russia is actively interfering. Even Nielsen, the person you just saw, who previously had kind of poo-pooed it, is now saying, and she had said earlier, just a couple of days ago, reversing and joining Dan Coats and others, going, no, it's really important. It's serious. And she said the Russians have our democracy in their crosshairs. So now that's a person who was trying to deny it earlier. So apparently they have seen some intelligence that has spooked them, if you will, right? And so I like what she said about free and fair elections. I mean, that's, by the way, Wolfpack's slogan is to restore free and fair elections. So wolf-pack.com to get money out of politics. And let me just quick side note there. Note that, there are other people who interfere in our elections. I'm in the camp that the Russians have. I'm in that camp because of overwhelming evidence in that regard. But corporations also interfere in our elections, and so do other governments. So we should act out on all that. But so the interesting part here is the way that they were talking was a little surprising. Coates said that he is, quote, not in a position to either understand or fully or talk about what happened in Helsinki.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, he's saying, I wasn't briefed on what the U.S. president and the leader of Russia talked about for 2 hours behind closed doors, even though he is the director of national intelligence. He sits on top of the entire intelligence community, and the president won't tell him what he told the Russian president for all that time. That is very strange. I know we get used to things in the Trump administration that would otherwise be startling, but then he also went on to say that I think the president has made it abundantly clear to everybody who has responsibility in this area. That's an awfully strange way of phrasing it. So why is that strange? Well, couldn't the president just, of course, Dan Coats is in charge. He's my director of national intelligence, or couldn't he join, but for these guys to come out and say, it's okay, we're in charge, and we are fighting back against the Russians, and Trump is not here, but I assure you, he knows that we're the ones who are responsible in this area.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's something a little strange about that.
So I want to be clear about what I meant in my comments. So I didn't see this press briefing as damage control for Trump and his reputation. I saw it as damage control for administration officials who might be a little hesitant to speak out against Trump, or might refuse to publicly, openly, transparently be transparent in showing that they disagree with him. But I think that they want to make abundantly clear that they do see what's happening with Russia, and they are not in agreement with Trump when he makes it seem as though Vladimir Putin is not a threat, or that the Russian government is not a threat and has never tried to meddle in our elections. I see this as them trying to message to the American people, no, we see what's happening and we do take it seriously. Yeah. So it's more damage control for themselves than Trump.
Yeah. No, normally, any normal administration would actually send these people out to do damage control for itself, because they'd realize it was such a stupid thing to do to say that the Russians are right and we are wrong. But of course, Trump doesn't see it that way. So that's why this split is fascinating. I want to show you two more clips here, and then I want to come back to another quote that I found to be curious, and that's by the FBI director. Let's go to the next video here, though.
As I have said consistently, Russia attempted to interfere with the last election and continues to engage in malign influence operations to this day.
So that's the FBI director, Christopher Wray, explaining they're still doing it right now. In fact, let me go to his curious quote. The other one he said there was, he said, I can assure the American people that the men and women of the FBI, starting from the director all the way on down, are going to follow our oaths and do our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So now you might say, hey, Cenk, you're overreading it. And it's possible, right? Because he's just saying, look, the president is constantly attacking the FBI nonstop. In fact, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who's awkwardly present, attacked the FBI herself just the other day, right? So it's the FBI director protecting the FBI. That makes sense. But the way he phrased it, that I can assure everyone that we're going to follow our oaths and do our job. It could be that this is just, hey, we all got together and decided to do damage control for our own careers for some later date when we're out of the Trump administration.
That's the way I see it.
Right,
yeah.
and that is the most likely thing. But for all of them to get together and to say, yeah, Trump's not here, but we're on it, we do take Russia seriously, and we're going to follow our oath no matter what. I don't know. I grant you that I really could be reading too much into it, but I did find the wording from a couple of them to be interesting.
Well, regardless of what their true intentions are, and if you take what they're saying at face value, meaning you believe what they're saying, it's a good thing that you have some people in a position of power who are acknowledging this issue and attempting to find solutions for it. Because, look, my concern wasn't, oh, I want to go to war with Russia, or I don't want anything like that. I just want to make sure that we secure and protect our elections. And so I was concerned that with Trump's very cozy relationship with Putin, nothing was going to be done about this very serious issue. So I don't know what these individuals are going to do specifically to protect, the midterm elections from any interference from Russia or any other country. But knowing that they are aware of this and are at least acknowledging it and want to do something about it doesn't put my mind at ease completely, but it gives me a little bit of comfort.
I want to show you the last clip here because it's Dan Coates. I read you the quote, but I want you. Let's all look at it together to see how he said it about what he knew and didn't know about the president meeting with Russia.
I don't know what happened in that meeting. I think as time goes by, the president has already mentioned some things that happened in that meeting. I think we will learn more, but that is the president's prerogative.
So that was earlier, of course, and he continued along the same veins today. But as you look at that, how can the director of national intelligence not know what happened in the meeting at all? Now, look, one possible theory is, the president's incompetent and just doesn't do anything he's supposed to do as president, including sharing intelligence about meeting with the Russian leader for a long, long time with his own director of national. Shouldn't you at least debrief and go, here's what he said, and what can we get, figure out from what Putin said,
right,
and make sure that we understand their motivations and actions, etc., so that we can act and react towards this country, whether you consider it an adversary or not. I mean, you'd want to huddle with your director of national intelligence almost immediately thereafter.
Yeah, right. Not with Trump.
And so one possibility is he's just a buffoon, right? The other possibility is he didn't want to tell his director of national intelligence what he talked about.
He went out of his way to ensure that conversation was as private as possible. There was only one other person in the room, and that was the interpreter, the translator, and that's it. So Trump didn't want to have a conversation about whatever it was that he discussed with Putin. Look, in any other circumstance, then someone might be able to say, okay, yeah, Trump's a buffoon, or the president is a buffoon, but you can't buy that in the context of this whole Russia debacle with Trump.
Yeah, and last thing is, look, we wanted to show you that clip from earlier when Coates talked about that, because you would think, all right, look, that was a little closer to Helsinki when he said that, and you saw it on CNN there, right? Even then, it's egregious and unbelievable. And then he said it in public that Trump wouldn't tell him what was in the meeting. So that's amazing. But since then, Trump has had plenty of time to call him in and go, hey, Coach, what are you talking about? Here's what happened in the meeting. Stop saying that stuff in public. That looks bad. That looks weird, right? So that's why I'm emphasizing that today he still said, quote, I'm not in a position to either understand fully or talk about what happened in Helsinki. It's one thing to say, I can't comment on that. I'm the director. That's intelligence, and I can't talk to you about it. But I'm not in a position to understand it. Now, there's something super weird going on. And it might be, look, this is speculation, but that they have intelligence about Trump that is not yet public. And so they want to go and have a press conference and say, we're going to do our jobs. Everybody be cool. And right now, the president is not telling us what he did with the Russians. I don't know. Well, look, we shared the facts with you. I shared my analysis of having seen a lot of these press conferences, what seemed a little off to me. And then the rest is, of course, just conjecture. But probably we'll all find out. I don't know whether it's soon, but we'll find out at some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We have to take a quick break. When we come back, we have incredible stories, including some more reporting from Emma Vigeland. Videos are incredible. You don't want to miss it.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hunt. And this has been The Breakdown. Was that good, guys?
Okay. Not enough hashtag use. Hashtag abs, hashtag model, hashtag woke bay. Hashtag one black friend. I'm thinking more rings. I got them here. We need more accessories. Way more accessories. I don't know where to put it. Come on, throw these on. Woke bay, not sleep bay. More sexy, too. When's the last time you posted on Instagram? Too long. Come on, man. No, you need to post at least once an hour. What's the outfit of the day today? Is this what you're going with? No. We need more accessories. This doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't. For your gay audience, man. Yeah, gays love you, man.
Okay. What else? What else do I need to do?
You haven't appropriated a culture in a week. We have like a kimono or something. Yeah, that looks good on you, dude. Perfect. How many rings you got on? Do you have any more? I got 3. Yeah, can we get more rings on this? And when you're done, kiss the ring. Look at the camera. Kiss the ring. Maybe like a little wink.
Islam's role in terrorism and all the Huffington Post articles weren't doing well. How was it?
How many likes did our last outfit of the day picture have? Only like 100,000. So I think that's where your focus needs to be. I hear you on all the blah 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 social issues. We need to focus on followers.
Kids in Yemen.
We don't care if you sleep at night. Dab, dab. Okay, dab. There you go. More. Talk about yourself more.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, be more into it.
Instagram. It's important for me. Americans losing access to healthcare coverage.
I hear you. Attack Tommy more.
I've done it. So many. She shoots out of her living room now. It's like punching down now.
We're okay with that. That helps the brand. We made you. We got you verified. You're nothing
come on. So I don't know what else I need to do here.
Just take off that shirt.
That's exactly why Tommy Lauren is stupid. I hate you. I'm Hassan Piker. Follow me on Instagram.
Hashtag woke bay.
Hashtag woke bay. Follow me. I will be on Turks special election day coverage trophy. An amazing power panel. Look at this panel. We're talking about power.
It's like a smart destiny challenge.
We're all too strong. We start a revolution. Yes, another one. Aren't you excited? Wow. So the best writers in the country are right here on this panel, with the obvious exception of John Irola.
Let's also quickly discount Harry Potter fanfiction.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
You know, I can't get over the fact that Donald Trump already has lower numbers than George Bush did after Katrina.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
Their legislation is always accompanied by some kind of moral judgment, right? This idea that poverty is a choice.
What ran me away from Christianity was judgment and condemnation.
Assaulting peaceful protesters in North Dakota, crazier than bombing Yemen, crazier than bombing Syria so much they ran out of bombs. You mean crazier than funding ISIS and trying to knock off Assad at the same time? Amazing footage came out today of a 5-year-old child being miraculously pulled from rubble in Aleppo. A miracle and a reminder of the horror of that conflict is still present every single day.
My name is Sophie Tsai, and I'm a video editor and producer at 2YT. I edit Facebook Originals, Aggressive Progressives, Pop Trigger, but I also work on Main Show. I produce The Happy Half Hour. I think my happiest moment is spending time with my coworkers outside of work, hanging out with them and getting to know what they like to do or what movies they like to watch and what hobbies they have. My hobby is playing with my dog and going out to eat. I think that's my favorite thing to do on the weekends.
All right, back on the Young Turks. A bunch of fun tweets here. Eric Rooney writes in, first time this morning in months watching QRT Live. I forgot how goofy you guys are. In parentheses, in a good way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I miss those days. I miss those days where we could do a ton of goofy stories because we were.
Ironically, a goofy president has led to disastrous stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But I'm glad that you didn't think afterwards.
I wonder how that guy's doing. I wish we could reach out to him and be like, how are you?
How you doing, old man,
Yeah.
old friend? We had given him the nickname Epic Mountain Man.
Yes.
But could you imagine if we had resources? I'd go, oh my God, if we had TV resources, we would have so much fun.
No,
I
we
would
wouldn't.
get
No, we wouldn't.
No,
you wouldn't let us have fun.
No. We would. We'd get, because those guys have like money coming out. Like they could do anything they want, and they just sit there and do nothing instead. Anyway, we'll bring Epic Mountain Man together with Denver Wriggle after he loses the election. Okay, and have them talk Bigfoot back and forth. How is that? That would be
Big ideas.
Big ideas.
That's what that would be.
Bigfoot, big ideas. You know what they say about people with big feet? They have big ideas. Okay, Sasha Ray writes in, damn, Anarchisperian with the win. You're not ready for this Yeti.
That was good.
Epic. All right, great. And finally, Mischief Manager says, whatever happened to the lizard cam during the commercial break? I haven't seen marijuana in a while. Is she/he okay? Does she/he need help? I don't know what the marijuana is either, by the way.
Yeah, I don't either.
Although it's skin transitions all the time. That's a whole other thing.
And we will assure you that the iguana is doing very well and enjoys housing that is probably better than the housing that most of us live in.
Well, that's what you assure, but he ended with #LizardKing. Okay, I don't get him started. Okay, put shirts with L's on them. Okay, L for Lizardgate. What happened with the lizard? And does it have anything to do with the deep state? Okay, speaking of which, yesterday, I tried to start this thing. I'm not sure I'll put my back into it. Let's see what happens. Does it go viral? V for viral. So the goofy guys that are doing QAnon goofy slideshows.
Terrifying,
exactly. They're going around with Q shirts, so I was like, okay, let's go around with V shirts. So we put it up on shoptyt.com. Okay? How's that for simple? They have Q, we have V.
No, I feel like they took a lot of time to come up with that design.
Yeah. No. They've been working around the clock. So V for Vendetta, V for Veritas, V for Victory. Okay, V for Peace. Okay, but mainly for truth. So show them that there's more of us than there are of them. Shop2it.com to get that. It's fun. We'll see what happens. All right, what's next?
All right. Robert Mueller is offering Donald Trump and his legal team a new proposal in order to get Trump to agree to an interview with Mueller. Now, Trump has been urging his team to allow for this interview. He believes that he has the ability to convince Robert Mueller that this whole investigation is a witch hunt. Now, this follows Trump's numerous tweets essentially tearing down Robert Mueller, going after individuals tied to this investigation. Now, the team, Robert Mueller's team, has offered the White House a format changes. Perhaps he's even willing to limit some of the questions asked of President Trump or accept some answers in writing. So, again, Trump has explicitly and publicly expressed a desire to be interviewed, but his lawyers have repeatedly objected to the investigators' proposals. And just to remind everyone of what Trump said about Mueller and this investigation just this week, a couple days ago, this is a terrible situation, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions should stop this rigged witch hunt right now before it continues to stain our country any further. He also said that Bob Mueller is totally conflicted. Okay.
Yeah, and he's doing dirty work. I mean, again, we have a madman for president. Okay, so I think what Robert Mueller is trying to do is just lure him into the room. And it's possible that the president's lawyers would tackle him if he tried to answer any question that was outside of what they previously agreed to talk about. But you know Trump, he thinks he's a genius, so he might just start answering them. And you also know Trump, most of the professional lawyers have already left, so he's left with a bunch of clowns. I mean, he runs a 3-ring circus, so he's going to bring, of course, clowns and elephants, kind of literally with the Republicans, to Mueller. They're going to be outmatched. And so Mueller's thinking, just anything, please come here, come this way, just a little further, sit down, let's have a couple of questions, see what happens.
So
it's inconceivable that Trump wouldn't incriminate himself and wouldn't lie. He can't go 2 sentences without lying. So you just got to get him in the room.
My read of this is a little different. And, of course, this is based on my perception of the story, and I could be wrong, but hear me out. I think what's happening is, Trump doesn't really want to be questioned by Bob Mueller. But perception is everything. And so saying, I really want to answer his questions, I think I should answer his questions, but my legal team, my lawyers won't let me do it. I have nothing to be afraid of. I have nothing to hide. but my lawyers won't let me do it, right?
Yeah. So Anna, it's a great hypothesis, but I'm afraid you're making the same mistake everyone else is.
That I'm guessing he has a strategy when he does it.
He never has a strategy. You're assuming that he thinks 2 steps ahead or 1 step ahead. He never thinks 1 step ahead.
I agree with you on that. However, I think some of the people surrounding him, even though they're some of the most deplorable people on the planet, I think some of them do think of strategy.
No, of course.
Yeah.
No, his lawyers, every lawyer that's been there is like, no way we're going to let Trump testify. Why? Because they know Trump. They deal with Trump all the time. And they know that he's a pathological liar. He would immediately perjure himself the minute he walked in the door. It doesn't matter what you ask him. If you ask him, hey, is the sky blue? He'll be like, it's green. It's a strong green. A big green. He can't help himself. So, no, they tackle him before they let him into that room. I'm not talking about the lawyers. Even Rudy is like, no, I mean, like, we could, but we're not going to. It's a perjury trap.
No, but I think the strategy was cooked up by his team. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I hear you. No?
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you why. This, of course, we're just guessing here. But, number one, he doesn't listen to anybody. He wouldn't listen to his team, okay? And number two, he, in his incredibly stupid mind, actually believes he's really, really smart. And so he thinks, I'll just go in there, and I'm like a smart person. That's one of my 2 great traits, including being mentally stable. And so I will go and talk to Robert Mueller, and I'll outwit him. I guarantee you he thinks he's smarter than Robert Mueller, and that he can just talk Mueller out of it. Like, every rational person goes, even the MAGA guys are like, don't do that. Don't do that. It's not going to work out, right? Okay. But Trump in his head thinks, I got him. Ladies and gentlemen, I got him. So that's why his lawyers are constantly like, I mean, he could. But just hold him. Get the other arm. Yeah. No. You can't have him go to the room. But he could, kind of.
Yeah. Look, Trump is a wild card, so I'm uncertain about the future. I don't know whether or not he's actually going to go through with it. And you're right in that once he has an idea in his head and he thinks that he's going to succeed in executing that idea, he's not going to listen to his legal team and he's going to go ahead and do what he wants to do. With that said, though, you are right in that Mueller seems to be willing to do anything just to get Trump in the room. To give you an example, according to the Washington Post, Mueller has proposed that he might not even ask any questions about actions Trump has taken as president, including his private discussions with Comey. So, I mean, if you take that off the table, then, yeah, I mean, it definitely opens up more of a possibility for Trump to be willing to talk to him. But anyway.
Look, the degree to which Bob Mueller and his team are smarter than Donald Trump is immeasurable. Scientists, if they spent their whole lives, could not measure it. The Mueller team would come in with carefully crafted questions based on the information they already have to try to try to get Trump to answer things that are essential. And they know, my guess is that they know he did it, and they have a whole bunch of evidence. So the questions, any question they would ask him, he would immediately give a damning answer to.
They wouldn't even have to ask him questions. I feel like he'd go in there.
He'd go in guns blazing, right? Like, well, why? So somebody should have fired you. That's obstruction of justice, right? And my name's not Donald Trump. It's John Miller. Okay, perjury. Like, I mean, we just keep on going, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I hope to God that he does not listen to his attorneys. And I agree with a TV pundit that once said, like, no, that would be. It's criminal negligence on the part of an attorney to let Donald Trump testify under these circumstances. Like, anyone who knows Donald Trump knows he will immediately lie and get himself in much bigger trouble. So, in fact, I think it's grounds for disbarment. Okay, but I hope that Trump does. Hey, look, and if Trump's watching, okay, if somehow this is replayed on Fox News, okay, now, Donald, are you smarter than Mueller or aren't you? Only one way to find out.
Damn, that was a dare. We'll see how it goes. All right, other news. As we had talked about recently on the Young Turks, Emma Vigeland was in Florida talking to Trump supporters at a rally for DeSantis, who has a gubernatorial bid in Florida. And we showed you a number of different Trump supporters. I would argue that some of the videos that we showed you yesterday included the more animated supporters. But I wanted to give you some other examples of, the people who continue to support Trump and the reasons for why they love him so much. So with that said, let's take a look at a young Trump supporter who says that he actually was against Obamacare. That was one of the things that turned him on to Trump and his presidential bid. Take a look.
That I watched throughout the election, and I just felt like I couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump based on their experience and their reputation. And then once Donald Trump started doing what he wanted to do and really got into power, I noticed that everything that he said he was going to do, he actually did.
So what specifically did he do that spoke to you?
He reformed taxes. He, started going against Obamacare because I didn't really think that Obamacare was good for the middle class.
Do you think that Medicare for all is a good option, or do you just want private insurance?
I believe you could do something similar to Canada where it is Medicare. There is a version of Medicare for all, but then they also have the ability to have private health care if you choose to pay for it.
Hey, I feel like that's what Bernie Sanders is promoting right now.
Okay, no, I love this because right-wingers do projection. They think you guys are out there trying to punk them or troll them or make fun of them. No, it's not true. What we're doing is we're putting a mic in front of people and finding out why they like Trump and asking them legitimate questions. So it's not like a Steve Crowder type of gotcha, ha 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 ha, I'm so clever and you're not. So because look at this, that's enlightening for all of us. Now one person doesn't represent all the Trump supporters. Obviously, the crazy guy we showed you yesterday doesn't represent him. This guy does, but overall, you can begin to get a sense, right? By the way, you should watch that whole video, and it's on Rebel HQ on YouTube and Facebook. And if you get our app, you get all of that programming really easy. Just go get TYT app to be able to watch all of it. But anyway, in earlier parts, there were most of the people answering were saying, "Why do you like Trump? He's not a regular politician." And I was thinking, I knew it, man. People in Washington, they love politicians because they're their friends, but they don't. So they're incapable of seeing how much the rest of the country hates politicians. In fact, when I say that, they think I'm being uncivil. No, I'm just telling you the reality. They don't like politicians. The politicians they dislike the most are slick politicians. Mm-hmm. So when they see Donald Trump with all of his rough edges, they're like, nah, it's not a slick politician.
Okay.
And that part is true.
Let me just add something to that is important. So whenever Trump tweets, and as you all know, there are all sorts of misspellings, grammatical errors, lack of punctuation. The worst thing to do is to get on him for that, because that is a strategy that works with his voters, right? Because it makes him human. It makes him relatable. He's not some polished, rehearsed politician.
I know, but it's frustrating to me because, look, if you also misspell Marine Corps, that's okay, but you're not the president.
Right.
The president is supposed to be smart. It's not a thing to brag about that the guy you support is not very bright and doesn't know how to spell. So, okay. But you're right about that. They do think that makes them real. Okay. So now back to this guy. Look, I don't sense any malice from this guy, and he really doesn't get it. So, and he doesn't have the right information. So first of all, he says Trump delivered on everything. No, he didn't. And he mainly talked about draining the swamp. And his administration is filled to the rim with corruption. But this guy probably didn't get the memo on probably 90% of the scandals that Trump. Do you think that guy knows that Trump did a deal with the Chinese to reopen ZTE and allow them to come into the United States even though they're a national security threat because China gave $1 billion to a park in Indonesia that then gave millions of dollars to Donald Trump? He doesn't know that. If he knew that, he'd probably be outraged. And then look at what he says about healthcare. I say, I don't like Obamacare. Why? Because you're bombarded in conservative media. Obamacare is terrible. Obamacare is terrible.
But not only that, Obamacare did have massive failures.
Yeah, and it has real issues, and to be fair to him, etc., right? And so what system do you like? He likes the one in Canada. Oh my God, that's the one progressives want, right? And in fact, that's why Medicare for All polls at 60% or higher, because a lot of Republicans and a ton of independents also really like it. Even the mainstream press, as they're attacking Medicare for All, like the Associated Press did a terrible job the other day, Wall Street Journal again did it today, etc. The AP had to begrudgingly say it is incredibly popular with independents for some reason, right? Yeah, because people want healthcare. It's not that complicated. And so to close the loop, Trump in the campaign said that he would give everyone healthcare and it would be cheaper. Now, when he went to destroy Obamacare, he did not propose an alternative. So he would not have done that. He would have done the exact opposite. But this guy, I bet you he genuinely believes that Trump's proposal would have given everyone health care, just like Canada, and would have given them options.
Yeah.
But it's not remotely true.
Also, when Emma asked him to be specific in terms of what Trump did follow through on, he mentioned tax reform, which, anyone who paid close attention knows that there really wasn't tax reform, there were tax cuts. So Trump promised that even if he lowers the corporate tax rate, he'd get rid of loopholes so, these corporations actually pay their fair share of taxes. Because the effective taxes that corporations were paying was around 17% because of all these loopholes. Well, he didn't close those loopholes. You know what he did? He actually limited deductions that people living in blue states can take advantage of, and people in the middle class can take advantage of. So, for instance, if you're living in a state that has state taxes, you can no longer deduct that from your taxes.
So one last thing about that. I mean, again, it goes to, did he really deliver? In the campaign, he was smart or otherwise. He said, hey, I'm going to go after the loophole that allows the hedge fund and private equity guys to pay the least amount of taxes. Now, that's true. That is an egregious thing. And I didn't believe him for a second because I know that he's a pathological liar, and I know that he was just trying to get votes. But it is a savvy way of trying to get votes. So guys like that probably heard that and go like, oh, yeah, way to go get the hedge fund. Did he actually do it? Of course not. He left it in there. He said he'd negotiate drug prices. Did he do that for you? Of course not. Anything that helps the rich and powerful, he lied about and never did. But they never got the memo. Yeah. That's why it's not, like, people make a very wrong assumption oftentimes, especially on TV. They think that the average Trump voter or the average voter, period, in the country knows all the things they know, and they like Trump anyway. No, they don't know 80% of that stuff. So, and look, and it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag.
Definitely,
so let's show to the other.
Definitely a mixed bag, because there are plenty of people who do know what's going on, but they support him regardless. And so the next video is an example of that. Let's take a look.
Donald Trump, being a businessman, has used his knowledge and gotten rid of the corruption that's been in Washington for a long time. He's making smart, sound decisions. Sometimes maybe not the right wording, but he's trying to run the country like a business, and he's setting us on the right path to prosperity.
You don't worry about the bankruptcies at all in his past?
Everybody's had problems in the past, and to become rich, you got to go through your ups and downs, and he's come out of it every time, and he's a proven winner.
See, but he doesn't know either, right? So he thinks Trump's running the country like a businessman. No, he's not. He's running it like an idiot. There's nothing that he's done that would give you a sense that he's business savvy. He doesn't know the details of the 6 bankruptcies. He doesn't know that he borrowed at a 14% interest rate, which no rational businessman would borrow at. He doesn't know that he bankrupted casinos, which is nearly impossible, right? He doesn't know that his dad actually gave him $200 million, and he bungled his way through it. He doesn't know that he basically did money laundering for the Russians after the 6 bankruptcies to get himself back up on his feet. And so he thinks, well, I don't know, he looks like a billionaire, and everybody tells me he's a billionaire. He's got to be a smart businessman. He's running the country well like a businessman. None of that is true.
I think that there is a significant portion of Trump supporters who will be confronted by the very facts that you mentioned, and they will make excuses for him. That is exactly what happened when Emma mentioned the bankruptcy. He made excuses for him. Well, everybody goes through a tough time when they're trying to get rich. No, they don't. It's not common for people to go bankrupt 6 times. It's just not. After inheriting a ton of money. So, anyway.
One bankruptcy, maybe even 2, and somehow you recover. 6? The House always wins. Unless it's run by Donald Trump. He destroyed one of the most rock-solid principles there is, certainly in the casino and gambling world. He lost running. It's impossible what he's done. He is a buffoon. I mean, this guy, look, you're right, Anna. They make excuse after excuse. But if they knew what we know about his actual bungling, I think that they would be shocked. They would probably think, no, for one, they wouldn't believe it. They're like, no, you're lying, you're fake news, right? That can't be. It can't be. This guy's attached to my identity now. It can't be, right? But if you actually convinced them that that was real, I think they would be dumbstruck. They'd be like, wow, really?
I don't know. I disagree with you. And we'll keep showing you videos. You guys can decide for yourself. Let's take a look at the next one.
So, what attracted you to Trump in 2016, and has he lived up to your expectations?
Absolutely, if not above and beyond, I believe.
Specifically, policy-wise, what has spoken to you?
Economically, I mean, I think he's, he says what he says, and he gets it done. And I believe it. And I think maybe he might get a Nobel Prize for it, too.
See, he says what he says. He doesn't like classic politicians. He might get a Nobel Prize. That's okay. No big deal. He doesn't know this is Nobel. That's just no big deal at all. But why? Why does he say that? Because Trump keeps saying it, and other Republicans say it. So he heard that Trump already solved North Korea. He's about to get a Nobel Prize. He already got peace with North Korea. But that isn't true. He got nothing out of the North Korea negotiations. And North Korea, just earlier this week, is building missiles. Our intelligence says they're building missiles and they haven't stopped their nuclear program at all. But he thinks Trump's about to get a Nobel Prize.
Okay, so here's my question to you. What are members of the media supposed to do when you're dealing with a group of people who have this blind trust in a politician? Like, this is the thing that makes me feel like this job is not effective in change. And I know that's being super pessimistic, right? But you, on one hand, you have news outlets. Take us out of the equation. Just any news outlet that's credible and legitimate. You can't just state something without evidence to back it up. You know, if you're a true journalist, you have the evidence, you have the data, you have the statistics to back it up. And so you have the press making its case, just giving you the information with that data. And then you have Trump, who just says things and then his supporters take it as face value. So if there's all this blind trust in Trump, then what good is it? I mean, it is important to do journalism. I'm not trying to minimize that. But in terms of reaching out to these voters.
No, I totally disagree, and I'll tell you why. Okay, no, Anna, look, but that's why I get so frustrated with the mainstream media and why I got so frustrated with Hillary Clinton the kind of campaign that she ran. Because what do you hear nonstop on cable news? Trump's a bad guy, Russia, he did a bad tweet, and he attacked people, and he shouldn't attack people. Do you hear nonstop about his 6 bankruptcies? Did you hear about all the details of it during the campaign?
No.
No, Hillary Clinton never talked about it. The press never talked about it. That's why I did the Loser Donald series. Because I'm like, isn't anybody going to tell people how incompetent this guy is, that he can't run a business if his life depended on it?
Yeah,
and they never told them. They never told them.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right. And it's not just what happened leading up to Election Day. It's what's happening now. You're right. They do focus too much on things that don't really speak to voters. So I'll give you an example of something that I've been yelling about on No Filter on a regular basis, and no one in the mainstream press talks about this. Everyone pretends like the economy is great. Joblessness is down, everyone's working, everything's great. No, it's not. No, it's not. Look, the stock market artificially inflated. Yeah, there's a low unemployment rate, but wages are super stagnant. They remain stagnant. People are drowning in debt. Right? Everyone's talking about the GDP and how it was 4.1% in the last quarter, right? In the last quarter, which is great. But people took out so much debt to actually stimulate the economy and buy products. They don't talk about those things.
They don't give you context. Look, on almost every one of those issues. So when they passed the tax cut, did you see all over cable news, hey, this does not include getting rid of the hedge fund loophole that Trump talked about nonstop during the campaign? I bet you never saw that on cable news. If you saw it, CNN mentioned it once, and then they were done with it. Then they were back to the tweets, and then he doesn't like these kind of people, he doesn't like that kind of people. But these folks, look, to your point, earlier point, Anna, some of them really, really don't know, and some of them do know that he doesn't like X, Y, and Z, kind of like that about him.
Yeah.
And the press and Hillary during the campaign accidentally reinforced the things they like about Trump. That he's not a regular politician, he's a regular schmo, in a sense, at least his intelligence, right? And that he doesn't like the same people they don't like. But they never told you what a buffoon he is, and how he never delivers on his promises. So, by the way, what is a bankruptcy? And it happens to people. I totally get it. I'm not trying to judge, right? But it is not delivering on your promise, in a sense. And it should be heartbreaking. It should be something like as a business person or as a regular person, you should be like, God, I wish that hadn't happened. Instead, Trump goes around and goes, that's a smart business thing to do. That means it's a smart thing to do to screw over people who trusted you.
Yeah.
Right?
Look, there are obviously different types of bankruptcies, and so there are people, middle class Americans, working class Americans who have done everything right, and then they get sick.
Yes.
And because our healthcare system is so screwed up, they go bankrupt, they lose everything. That is very different from someone who was passed on a tremendous amount of wealth from his father and then squandered it in nonsensical investments and bad deals.
When your family's devastated by an illness and you go personally bankrupt, anyone who judges you does not understand the conditions that Americans actually live under. But if you had $200 million given to you by your daddy, and you, like an idiot, you decide to start 3 different casinos in the same city, which then bankrupted each one of them, that's a different story. That's a bankruptcy because you are a terrible, terrible business person. Every one of them, his advisors warned him, why would you start 3 casinos in the same city? They're going to cannibalize each other, and you're paying too high an interest rate. And he's like, I got it. They'll all say Trump on it. So look, pass these videos on to your friends, your family, people who don't know the reality. So because cable news isn't going to cover it enough. So pass these on to your dad, your mom, your uncle, whoever you think needs to hear the reality of what Donald Trump actually is.
Let's take a break. When we come back, Ivanka Trump speaks out against some of Trump's policies, and we'll tell you which ones.
I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I had first got my license, like 17 years old or 78, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think my dad's Oldsmobile, and I parked it in a place where there was 2 cars next to me, a really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots, I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all 3 cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went, boom, oh, and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the 3rd car. And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, for this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. And I'm like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know. Wow, there's a B? Yeah. I'm like, I hit 3 cars. I don't know. So you guys gotta come help me, okay? Okay, so 1, my bad. Really sorry. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't want to keep hitting your cars, and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot. We are actually the longest running data stream on the planet. Later tonight, we start a revolution. Yes, another one. Too strong. You're not answering the question. Answer the question. Go. Engage. Fire.
I am the least anti-Semitic person that you've ever seen.
I think there's blame on both sides. Oh, these politicians here.
Worst.
The government's robbing you, and they're distracting you with nonsense.
Fake news, the enemy of the people. Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated.
I can't speak as dumb as he understands. The market will be destroyed by this plan, and 45 million people will be left without insurance.
They will be met with fire and fury. We've just launched 59 missiles.
MSNBC shows the bombs taking off, and Al Jazeera shows you when they land.
The profiling and the Muslim bans have begun.
Today, my father and brother await deportation.
Horrific acts of violence in Charlottesville.
What a sick country we live in.
It's time to get up and fight back.
Giant protests against Donald Trump. Women's marches take over more than 500 cities across the United States.
Immigrants throughout the United States do protest.
We work together as a community and we stand up for each other.
This has sparked a new movement.
History is not on your side.
Your fundamental principle is flawed.
More and more women are sharing their stories of sexual assault.
It's happening right in front of our eyes as the culture is shifting. You want to talk about the revolution? Here it is. It's going to be awesome. You do have the power to change people. You do. I hope one day we can all learn to live together in a decent way and not let oftentimes the media and the corrupt established system tear us apart.
Hi, my name is Emma J. Britto, and I am a TV and studio tech, and I've been here for 3 years. I'm a technical director for Nerd Alert and also Friday Post Game. On other shows, I do either audio or studio tech. And right now, I am working on the audio for reporting in. As of now, which is perfect. The people here are fantastic and enjoyable to work with, and I don't know where would I be.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Everybody remember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez hosting the first hour with us tomorrow on the Power Panel, so don't miss that. It's obviously at 6 p.m. Eastern. Everybody knows 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern is when the show is. Tell your mom, tell your friends, tell Randy Gonzalez. I switched that up a little bit. Okay, Maxwell Crystal writes in on YouTube Super Chat. Gotta agree with Anna here. It's a situation where you're talking about fighting someone, but unfortunately your friends are holding you back, so your hands are tied, referring to Trump testifying or not with Mueller. Agree to disagree on Anna being right. AJ Beamish writes in on Twitter using hashtag TYT Live. There is no excuse for ignorance in the age of information. Trump supporters choose not to know. I don't agree with that one either. You'd be surprised that if you live their lives, which God help you, you'd be surprised at the information that they receive. I don't think it ever occurred to them to go to alternate.
Well, thought bubbles are real, and that is a modern day issue that I don't think has been addressed enough. There haven't been any solutions for it. When you're on social media, when you're on Google, you are shown things that these platforms believe you want to see. And so if you have a left-leaning ideology or a right-leaning ideology, you're going to be surrounded by, the same perspectives, the same types of articles that agree with what your preconceived notions. So that is a real problem. But with that said, I do think that there is a certain level of ignorance that people choose in their lives,
I hear you. But that's why when conservatives say, "Oh, we saw you guys on election night in 2016." Okay, I actually like that a lot because, hey, at least you're watching, so come watch us on election night in 2018. Come watch us on Tuesday, which is a giant primary night. And you might accidentally learn something. So that's why I always say, share the stream, share the videos, sharing is caring, especially with people who don't agree. Break through their thought bubbles.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
During a recent Axios event, Ivanka Trump was asked a question about the media and what she thinks about it. Take a look.
We have a number of our colleagues here on the press. Do you think that we're the enemy of the people?
Sorry?
Do you think that the media is the enemy of the people?
No, I do not. No, I don't. I certainly have. I can share my own personal perspective. I've certainly received my fair share of reporting on me personally that I know not to be fully accurate. So I've, had some sensitivity around why people have concerns and gripe, especially when they're sort of feel targeted. But no, I do not feel that the media is the enemy of the people.
Okay, so bless her heart, finally saying something that isn't exactly what her dad says, and she was supposed to be a moderating influence, and at least on this, she's speaking her mind and being accurate, and I actually don't have any problem with how she stated it. So she says, look, they haven't covered me fully accurately. I don't think that the press has ever covered anybody fully accurately. That's okay. I think that most of them are trying their best. And even if they did cover her accurately, she might not like their coverage and hence say that. And it's okay to think that the press has a certain perspective or a bias, etc. But calling them enemy of the people
dangerous and authoritarian and un-American. So at least she doesn't do that. So bless her heart. And now I could see, because you almost never hear her actually talk. She's always in the background.
Which is weird because her voice would make you think that she talks all day. She sounds like she's losing her voice.
But
anyway, I just want to say that no, I don't think that. Speak up and speak faster.
Oh, that's funny you say that.
Like that
I actually
video
think the opposite.
is so difficult to sit
No,
through.
and this is going to be weird, but it reminded me of Obama.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because thoughtful people pause before speaking, and so Obama did a lot. Ivanka does, and that's why it was like weird to have a Trump speak that isn't a total idiot. So that's what I was going to say. Of course, Trump thinks that she's the smartest person in the family because
she actually thinks about things before she speaks,
and she speaks in complete sentences, right? I mean, you've heard Eric Trump, you've heard Donald Trump Jr., you've heard Donald Trump Sr. They're a mess. So when she actually speaks like an intelligent human being, the Trump family must be like, whoa, look at Fancy Pants there with correct English.
All right, well, there's another media angle that I want to get to, so let's do that. Donald Trump is known for aggressively attacking the media. He refers to them as fake news. More importantly, he refers to the press as enemy of the people. And so there have been members of Fox News who have also fed into that. And now it's having real ramifications, real consequences for journalists who are out there simply trying to do their jobs. A recent example was when Jim Acosta, the political reporter for CNN, went to a rally in Florida, Tampa, Florida, that Trump was speaking at. And while he was there trying to cover the event, a number of people harassed him, yelled at him, shouted at him, and he shared video of those interactions on his Twitter page. He also said the following: just a sample of the sad scene we faced at the Trump rally in Tampa. I'm very worried that the hostility whipped up by Trump and some in conservative media will result in somebody getting hurt. We should not treat our fellow Americans this way. The press is not the enemy. So something interesting happened after Acosta made all of this apparent, kind of spoke out about it on social media. Hannity came to his defense. So let's take a look at what Hannity had to say on Fox.
It's why we call them the Destroy Trump press. Now, CNN's chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta, is one of the worst offenders. And the crowds at last night's Trump rally in Tampa, Florida, well, they told him in person what they think of him and his network. Jim Acosta shared his fear of Trump supporters, and he tweeted out, quote, just a sample of the sad scene we faced at the Trump rally in Tampa. I am very worried that the hostility whipped up by Trump and some in conservative media will result in somebody getting hurt. We should not treat our fellow Americans this way. The press is not the enemy. Jim, I'm a pretty prominent conservative in the country. Let me say this clearly and loudly. I want every journalist in this country, everyone, I don't care who you work for, to be safe. And I'll tell you right now, I will be the first person to come to your defense if I'm there and anyone ever dares lay a hand on you. If I was standing there, I see it happen, I will be the first person to jump in and fight on your behalf. Physical violence is never acceptable to me, nor is it acceptable to the conservatives I know and respect. And let me also be clear, if you're a conservative, and by the way, you ever threaten anyone, you're not a friend of mine, you're not a friend of this program.
Okay, so I actually respect Hannity for doing that. I think he did a pretty good job with that.
Please.
All right, we can disagree about that in a second. But the part I didn't agree with was no conservative I know or respect would resort to violence.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Have you been paying attention? How about when Trump says at the rallies, go take him out, I'll pay your legal bills. Attack him, punch him in the face. And all you do is fawn over Donald Trump. What do you mean no conservative you know or respect would encourage violence? The president does it all the time.
In fact, in the end of that video that we just showed you, he said, if you ever threaten anyone, you're not a friend of mine. So now that we know that about Hannity, what would he say to this video?
This guy started screaming by himself, and I don't know, rough up. Maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing.
All right, yeah, get him out. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, they would not do it again so easily. Part of the problem and part of the reason it takes so long is nobody wants to hurt each other anymore, right? We have wonderful security guys. They said, Mr. Trump, there may be somebody with tomatoes in the audience. So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. I will pay for the legal fees, I promise. Do you know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. He's walking out like big high fives, smiling, laughing, like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Okay.
So, you rest your case. I hear you. So Hannity is deeply disingenuous when he says he doesn't want anyone threatening anyone. He's in love with Donald Trump, and we just showed you the tape. It's open and shut case. But I still like that Hannity at least goes out and says, don't hurt him, don't touch him, don't do anything physical, because they listen to everything Fox News says. So maybe it helps to bring it back a couple of inches, and they moved it forward many yards and miles. I hear you on that. But he did at least say the right thing there. But I want to be clear, too. I think, look, I've said this a lot of times because it's true. It's not a black and white issue. It's not, you either say the press is wonderful and everything they do is great and just the mainstream news is terrific and don't criticize it, or they're the enemy of the people and somebody should do something violent to them, right? No, the answer is, yes, it's totally within bounds to point out the perspective of the press and to even be mad about it. The press has been vicious to Bernie Sanders. And yes, Bernie Sanders crowds boo CNN just as much. And I don't mind that at all. But, I mean, but with liberals, what are they going to do? Throw Birkenstocks at the press? No, they're not going to. The liberals aren't going to do anything. And nor does Bernie Sanders or anybody else encourage them with ugly talk like they're the enemy of the people. And after a Capitol Gazette and 5 people were murdered.
Trump still refers to them as enemy of the people, okay? And let's also be clear. Look, that segment with Hannity is all fine, hunky-dory, if he actually put action behind the words that he's, uttering in that segment. Because the fact of the matter is, he has been not only very complimentary toward Trump every time he attacks the media, he himself has engaged in the exact same type of rhetoric that you see from Trump. And if you don't believe me, of course we have a montage proving that as well. Let's go to video 9. I'm skipping ahead.
Now, the media in this country has zero credibility. We have known this for over a decade. They are frauds. They are partisan hacks. Pretty much all they do is parrot liberal political talking points, attack President Trump 24/7. Yeah, I'm not surprised I become a 24/7 target. They hate conservatism. They hate anybody that dares to challenge their rigid, radical, left-wing ideology.
They hate you. They're radicals. They hate the president. I mean, come on.
No, but that's different than enemy of the people and punch them in the face. So, look, I think that what conservatives have done in attacking the media as liberal is deeply corrosive, and I don't believe they want to make the press better. I think they want to destroy the press and replace it with Hannity's propaganda. Unlike us, we want to actually make the press better and actually report the reality instead of just calling everything neutral, because neutrality is the enemy of reality. But that's not. It's a different league to call them enemy of the people.
No, okay, sure. Okay, I'll give you that. It's different to call them enemy of the people. But listen to what he's doing there, right? This whole fake news narrative, I mean, what Fox is essentially state-sponsored media. They might not be getting money from the federal government, but they're certainly sponsored by Trump. They're certainly applauded by Trump nonstop. And so, like, the narrative that you keep hearing from right-wing media over and over again is, don't trust the legitimate sources. Don't trust evidence. Don't trust facts. Don't trust anything you hear or see. Only trust us. Only trust Trump. That is also incredibly dangerous, right? Especially when he might not be saying enemy of the people there, but what he does imply over and over again is the media hates you. the media hates you for supporting Trump. And I think that plays into the same thing that you hear Trump saying over and over again about the media and how they are the enemy of the people.
Last thing, fine. Those are all things that are important and real and things to take into consideration. But at some point, you do have to criticize the press.
Of course you do.
You've got to find the correct balancing act, because the press does have a bias, and they don't know it. They don't have bad intent. The right wing. I mean, you're right that Hannity's language is dangerous, Anna, because he is putting bad intent on them, which makes people angrier and want to take action against them, saying, "Oh, they're trying to do this and this.
They're trying to deceive you.
They're trying to deceive you. No, they're not.
They're fabricating
things. But in my opinion, the mainstream press has a deep establishment bias. They are for the status quo. So when you say, "Hey, we'd like to help the average American," every time, almost every outlet will say, "That's not practical. It's not pragmatic. We can afford wars," and I'm never going to ask about the cost of wars. We can afford trillions of dollars in tax cuts. But how dare you try to give health care to the American people, just like every other developed country? And they will attack progressive ideas consistently and to some degree viciously. But it's not because they're the reporters are secret conservatives and they can't wait to help the rich. It's groupthink. And they've been taught, no, Sean Hannity calls you liberal. Make sure you really go after the liberals. And the status quo is great. It's great. Politicians with lots and lots of money that they took from corporations, they got bribed to take. That's wonderful. They're honorable gentlemen. It's groupthink. So we do have to call that out strongly, but there's a really important line. And I think that Hannity is over the line. I hear what you're saying. I like that he at least walked it back to try to get to the right side of the line by saying don't do anything physical. Trump has never been anywhere near the right side of the line. He's way overboard to begin with, and now by openly encouraging violence against the press by calling them enemy, what do you do with enemy of the people? What does the government do with enemy of the people? He's the head of the government. He's way past that line, and he is a danger to our Constitution and to our Republic.
And also, just one other fact that I want to point out. One day before Hannity did that defense of Acosta, he did that defense of Acosta, he was on Fox News and essentially said that Acosta deserved the harassment he got. So I don't know if he changed his tune because maybe there was a little bit of backlash, but either way, actions speak louder than words. And so it takes more than just defending Acosta in one segment to actually change the minds of some of the more unhinged Trump supporters who actually want to carry out, acts of intimidation or violence.
All right.
We got to take a break here. We'll be back.
He's so progressive, he recycles his thoughts. His car cleans the air. He prosecuted a bank executive and won. His idea of Social Security is old people being able to survive. When he builds a bridge, it bridges the income inequality gap. The only campaign contribution he'll accept is your vote. He's the most progressive man in the world.
Not all Democrats are created equal. Support bold progressives, my friends.
Things you have in common with your daughter?
I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that. He said I had small hands. They're not small, I never heard that one before. Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong, because you should be angry. Young
Turks. If it was genuine, he was bad.
Jake Uger, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
Jake the Turk Uger. Bring a TV station, yes, says. The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think. It's right out of like Wayne's World.
This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
We're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
If Phil and host meet CNN and headline news combined, at some point they want to give me a show.
Every single year that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a glass of shut up juice.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can support him. He says to me, "You won't believe the meeting that I just had."
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air. Cenk took an incredible risk. We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what you did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I'm going to be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing an actual show. I guarantee it. It is wrong to deny any of your fellow Americans the right to vote in this country.
Look, I tell you guys, most important thing is voting in primaries. Primaries.
I hope every American will vote for the candidate and party of his choice, but vote.
We cannot continue to complain about corruption and complain about what's happening in this country and continue to vote for it.
Let's get it right this time. It could be a moment of redemption for what happened in 2016. Back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you. Danger Carlos Danger says, I've yet to disagree with Anna this week. Sorry, Cenk, not sorry. Okay, hold the hairbrush. The mathematician says, I agree with Cenk.
I don't want to hear it.
Going to be open-minded. As bad as Hannity is, and he's complicit as a propagandist, he doesn't directly incite violence. And Anna, the first rule of Fox News has been since Roger Ailes took it over is, you can't trust anyone but us. Everyone else is lying libs. Yes, right. And of course, Ailes ran it from the beginning. He's now passed away and, of course, resigned in disgrace.
Look, I just want to make it absolutely clear that I think it is incredibly damaging to prime a huge portion of the country to just be incredibly distrusting to lack any trust in legitimate news sources, because that's essentially what's happening. And so it makes, it just makes it feel as though it's a fruitless effort to go out of your way to do good work as a journalist, right?
Yep. Juan Lanuza says, Cenk, is there any way you can have TYT Spanish show trying to get my mother off the cable news and would want her to watch you guys instead? Well, Juan, I appreciate that, but not yet. Become a member, and the more you guys support us, the more we can grow. Right now, we're lucky to do it in English. Okay, eventually we'd love to do it in Spanish, but that requires a lot of resources. tyt.com/join, and for a very low price, you get all the Young Turks shows, both audio and video. And speaking of which, the members of the day are Amina Kokic and Brad Tenbrink. So thank you, guys. And remember, you can get your V-shirt on Shop TYT now. Okay, so shoptyt.com. This is in opposition of the Q shirts. We are the V Army for truth and peace. All right, what's next, Anna?
All right. The ramifications of Donald Trump's zero-tolerance policy continues. There are hundreds of children who have not yet been reunited with their parents. Some of those parents have been deported. Some of those parents are difficult to trace back to the children because there wasn't proper documentation of who these children belong to. But it was interesting to hear from Ivanka Trump and her thoughts on the zero tolerance policy. During a recent event with Axios, she was asked what her thoughts were on the policy, and here's what she had to say.
One point in the White House for a number of your colleagues was the kids at the border issue. What is your view of that?
Yes, that was a low point for me as well. I feel very strongly about that, and I am very vehemently against family separation and the separation of parents and children. So I would agree with that sentiment. I think immigration is incredibly complex as a topic. Illegal immigration is incredibly complicated. I am a daughter of an immigrant. My mother grew up in communist Czech Republic, but we are a country of laws. So, she came to this country legally, and we have to be very careful about incentivizing behavior that puts children at risk of being trafficked.
Okay. So she's playing both sides there. Let's just keep it 100, right?
Yeah. No, she's trying to walk the line.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I appreciate that she said that separating families was a low point, and I think she's the only one allowed to disagree with Donald Trump, because if anyone else said that, Trump would have been on Twitter already, like, we're not winning anymore with our daughters. Our daughters are a problem. How come no one separated me from her? Okay, but it is his beloved daughter, so she gets to say what she wants, and I'm glad that she's finally at least tweaking him. But when she sounds a million times smarter than Donald Trump, but at the end of the day, her thesis was nobody knew that immigration was this complicated.
No, at the end of the day, the thesis was, let me go ahead and, soften the image of my father, but also regurgitate the same talking points that are not valid, that have no data behind them. And so, again, we are a country of laws. You should tell your father about that. He should be aware of the laws, because he seems to think he's above the law. But more importantly, look, child trafficking is a serious issue, but they're conflating that issue with what happened at the border with the zero tolerance policy. We're talking about parents showing up with their kids, looking for amnesty, and then having those children separated from their parents. They were separated from their parents. We're not talking about smugglers. We're not talking about coyotes. We're not talking about anything other than families here. And so don't conflate two separate issues in order to, walk that line and avoid pissing off the Republicans, because that's essentially what she did there. By the way, even though the zero tolerance policy has been stopped, right, thanks to some federal judges and thanks to enough public pressure that Trump ended it, the reality is it set off a domino effect. And right now, what Republicans are trying to do, and they're fighting aggressively, is do away with protections for these children. They're still trying to do away with the Flores settlement. And so I'll get to the details of that in just a second.
So they're looking for asylum, of course, not amnesty. But
sorry.
Yeah, I know you just misspoke. It's not big. And then, to be fair to Ivanka, even Trump himself said that she pushed internally. He said, Ivanka feels very strongly. This is when he reversed his policy. My wife feels very strongly about it. And then then he realizes, oh, that doesn't look good. They seem like good guys, and I don't. So he adds, I feel very strongly about it. I think anybody with a heart would feel very strongly about it. But you're the one who separated him in the first place. No, you don't get to claim you have a big heart. But anyway, apparently Ivanka did push behind the scenes to end the policy as well. I'm being fair. Give her credit on that, and she's now saying it publicly. But she says, "Oh, my mom came over legally," and Anna made a great point about how it's funny who they want to apply the law to. If you're powerless and you came to help your family either run away from violence in your home country, or even if you just want to get a job and live the American dream, etc., you're apparently a terrible lawbreaker. But if you might have done corrupt business deals or colluded with foreign countries during an election, no, the rule
rule of law is irrelevant. For the powerful, it should never apply. By the way, if you're a big banker, it should never apply, and the Democrats and Republicans agree to that. Only apply the law on people who have no power. If you have a lot of power, no, rule of law is nonsense. That's just for the middle class and the poor. And so, finally, 431 children have not been reunited. It's a bigger number overall, but these specifically because their parents were deported. So her dad didn't realize apparently how complicated immigration was, so ordered that the families be separated, ordered that their parents be deported, and then went, oops, it turns out we still have their kids.
So, what's going to happen to these kids? What happens to migrant children in the future? This is something that Republicans are asking, and they want to essentially set the rules for what can happen to these kids. And right now, there are luckily protections indicating that children cannot be detained for longer than 20 days. That is the Flores settlement, which was a settlement reached back in the 1990s. Well, Republicans don't like that. The Trump administration doesn't like that because they don't want families seeking asylum to, be free, I guess, as they're awaiting their court dates. And so they want to detain them. They want them to be in custody until they, have their cases worked out. And so there is a growing movement, Graphic 21, there's a growing call from Republicans and administration officials to keep immigrant families locked up for the entirety of their bids for asylum or legal status, and that could take months or years. Now, again, based on the Flores settlement, kids cannot be detained for that long. And so right now you have senators on Capitol Hill, Republican senators specifically, who are trying to pass legislation that would essentially undo the Flores settlement and allow them to detain children with their parents indefinitely. Okay? And then there's also an interesting tactic that they're considering. So they will essentially tell the parents who are seeking asylum with their children, all right, look, here's the thing. You can't be detained with your kids, okay, for longer than 20 days. So what do you want to do? I mean, we're going to have to, you can waive the Flores settlement, right? Say that you're okay with your kids being detained with you indefinitely. Or if you're not okay with your kids being detained indefinitely, then we're going to have to separate you from your kids. Essentially giving them this impossible ultimatum.
Almost like a Sophie's choice. And so you wonder why people want to abolish ICE, because they're worried that this is not the right way to enforce our laws, and that this organization has gotten away in their zeal to hunt the most powerless people in the country. And it's because of statements like this. The ICE Executive Associate Director, Matthew Albence, in front of Congress said, give us the authority to hold a family as a family unit. And he explained indefinitely. So, yeah, wanting to hold a family indefinitely because they cross the border when it's totally unnecessary is needlessly cruel. Now, why do I say it's unnecessary? They give them ankle bracelets, and the overwhelming majority of them, yes, not only come back, they come back for every single proceeding and every
86%. 86% of these asylum seekers go to their court dates and they do what they're supposed to do. So let's just be clear about that.
And Albence was, when asked about it, told the committee that most times we don't see them again. That's not true at all. And then he was asked a follow-up question, and he said, do you know the percentages? And he said, no. And he said, but it's, quote, a small percentage that ever return to court. No, it's not. It's 86%. That's a very, very high percentage. So they are purposely framing it in a way to make it seem like, oh my God, we'll never get these people unless we lock them up together as a family. And the only other choice we'll give them is either we're going to rip the kids away from you, or you sign away your rights for your kids not to be in prison for over 20 days. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. And this is the gratuitous cruelty that people object to with ICE. They return to their court hearings, just follow regular procedure, and do not imprison the kids.
But, these detention centers, they can make a lot of money by detaining people indefinitely. No one ever talks about the profit motive behind it, except for here at TYT where we talk about it incessantly. But it's important to point it out because at the end of the day, it's not about the facts. It's not about, whether or not the majority of people show up to their court dates. It's about the profit motive and how much money these institutions make.
I wonder how many ICE officials go on to work for private prisons.
Yeah.
By the way, not only hashtag abolish ICE, hashtag abolish private prisons.
Yes.
To me, that's a much easier question. It's a layup. Anyone who's for private prisons does not care about freedom of Americans. They are incentivizing locking up their fellow citizens, right or wrong, for profit. So make sure you spread that around. Hashtag abolish private prisons.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back. And when we come back, we will address Trump's new proposal at polluting our earth even further. And then we're going to talk about Keith Avlo later in the show.
Oh, yeah, this one. Yeah, we talked about it in the post game yesterday, and you will enjoy this follow-up immensely.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to TYT Sports. Oh, hey there, friends. That's Denise. I'm Rick, and this is a writer who's really mad that the Golden State Warriors are having fun. Welcome in, everyone. TYT Sports. That is Brent Ehrlich. I'm Rick Strom. We start with a very serious story here. Welcome to TYT Sports on this Friday. Got J.R. Jackson and Robert Littal from Black Sports Online.
I feel like Steph Curry's more poised to age like a fine wine. I'd say that LeBron ages like a fine bourbon, like a harder alcohol.
What's the difference between being aged between wine and bourbon?
This is me drinking wine. This is me drinking bourbon. And then hair just starts coming out of my chest.
Corey Palmer says this show sucks.
Corey.
The video they always show of Tom Brady after winning the Super Bowl, he did this.
Yes.
Because he's so sweet. Oh, he's so amazed that he actually won. He had no confidence in himself. He just went out there and threw the ball around like we do in the backyard with Johnny. And now he's a Super Bowl champion, beating the greatest show on turf. How amazing is Tom Brady? Tom Brady, I love you. Tom Brady can do no wrong until he screams at everyone on the sideline, which, as Odell Beckham pointed out, has been doing this for years.
There are different ways in order for someone to achieve their dreams, and Shaquem Griffin certainly did not give up at any single turn that he had throughout the course of his life, and up to the point that he is right now, which I'll get into in just a moment, where he killed the combine.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to No Filter. Hey, guys. Welcome back to No Filter. Do you guys like that intro music? I hope you enjoyed that CSI-like intro music that brought you into the program today. I don't know how to describe it. It's the People's Court type of music. All right. With that said, let's get to the news. Last Thursday, an employee at the store called 911 to report that the men were trespassing because they hadn't purchased anything. What? That is one of the most insane arguments I've heard. Trump's administration would like to protect the big banks and assist them in screwing you over. We should have a government that protects us. Yeah, I'm putting you on blast. Now, with that said, I want to move on to another injustice in the country, and that has to do with CEO pay. Teachers in several red states are making headlines protesting the fact that their districts have been severely underfunded. They haven't received raises in years, sometimes decades. Damn, keeping it 100.
After a week of soul-crushing news out there, we break out the good stuff, and that means good news. There's a woman who flew around the world to adopt 4 children who have the same genetic disorder as her. Fun things to watch.
We're gonna go out and see the Easter Bunny now, okay?
And then some good alcohol. 1 bourbon, amen. 1 scotch, and 1 beer. Bud Light, and then con más limon extra. And I'm gonna play the dark and stormy Daniels drinking game. Rakı. It's the Turkish national drink, Hakkaisan Sake. Cheers to you, first of all. Cheers to Brent Ehrlich. Climax. Hey, friends. Glass is half full. This is where we get our snacks. This is the salty stuff, all the sweets. This is the coffee 9000. I call it How. I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Jeff. This is where you get water.
He doesn't talk. And then basically, if you're ever hungry, you can just go into here. I know people write their name on this stuff. I always thought that was weird because it all kind of tastes the same. Lemon basil pasta salad. Yeah, this looks like it'd probably be pretty good. No. No, I won't be eating that again. Throw that out.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Just one YouTube super chat because we got a lot of stories to get to. J. Thomas Cordy says, just finished filling out postcards for David Benac at that's BENAC. He's a Just Democrat out of Michigan. The primaries are August 7th. Please, if you can volunteer, you'll feel great if your candidate wins because you'll feel like you made a difference because you will have made a difference. JustDemocrats.com/candidates to find candidates around you. Whether it's Kanyela Ng in Hawaii, Brent Welder in Kansas, and the list goes on. But I love that you're working with David. Thank you guys for everybody who's participating. Speaking of which, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the show tomorrow. She'll be in hour 1 of the Power Panel, and James Thompson, a Just Democrat out of Kansas, will be on hour 2 on the Power Panel. So it's going to be quite a powerful panel indeed. We'll address some of the attacks against her in the mainstream media when she's on, and we'll do the news of the day as well. And I'm also going to go on Bold TV tomorrow morning at 10:45 a.m. Eastern. So check out Bold TV. I'm going to talk about progressive campaigns around the country, like Alexandria's, and I'm going to fight back against some of the things that are being put out there and fight for the progressive position. We're also going to share that stream, so you can watch that at 10:45 a.m. Eastern at facebook.com/The Young Turks. Okay. All right. What's next?
Donald Trump has unveiled his plan to weaken car pollution rules that were set by the Obama administration, essentially undoing more of the positive things that were accomplished through Obama's presidency. Now, this proposal would freeze rules requiring automakers to build cleaner, more fuel-efficient cars, including hybrids and electric vehicles. So there are numerous parts of this proposal that are disastrous. It would also roll back a 2012 rule that required automakers to nearly double the fuel economy of passenger vehicles to an average of about 54 miles per gallon by 2025. There's also an issue here regarding what states can do. States like California have some pretty aggressive fuel economy laws, and essentially Trump's proposal would override that. And so states like California are planning on suing the administration over this, and it could get ugly. And to be fair to some of the automakers, they don't want that. They don't want to have a system where, you know, the country is divided by federal standards and then state standards. And so they say that would be the worst case scenario. But of course, Trump hasn't really thought any of this through. So we'll see how this all plays out.
Okay, so we might use the Army on this one too. If you want to join the TYT Army to correct things in the press that are wrong, tyt.com/army. The reason I say that is because no more Republicans getting to say that they're for states' rights. They're definitely against states' rights. So when California says, I would actually like to have clean air, they go, no, you're not allowed to. Wait, I thought you were for states' rights. Hey, California would like to have recreational marijuana. No, you're not allowed to. Okay? Wait, I thought you were for states' rights. No, you're not. No, you were for oppressing black people in this country, and you hid under the guise of states' rights. And by the way, they did that all the way back during the Civil War, but still, people in the South, and they've obviously did it all the way through the Civil Rights era, and they still do it. Just say what you're actually in favor of, which is, I don't like black people. I want to be able to take away their rights in the South. Not that you're actually for states' rights, because you don't believe in states' rights. Whenever a progressive state does something, Republicans say, we're against it, and we're going to use big government, federal government, to crush it. And that's exactly what Trump is doing now. So don't ever let them say that they're for states' rights again, let alone Bush v. Gore, where they destroy that principle. Okay, now, the car makers. Why are they now opposed to the Trump administration on this? In the beginning, they didn't want the standards because it cost them money. Now, of course, every corporation is against anything that costs them money. Here, in fact, the car companies are a perfect example. When Ralph Nader said, you guys need to put seatbelts in because it saves people's lives, they're like, oh, my, that costs like
that cost like 15 cents or 75 cents. It's going to bankrupt us. Shockingly, it didn't bankrupt them. They're all still in business, okay, and making plenty of money. And guess what it did? It didn't save hundreds of lives or thousands of lives. Seatbelts. The government regulating seatbelts saved millions of lives. And they wanted to save a couple of nickels, and they would have had all those people die. Instead, in that case, government regulation worked. So now in this case, why do the car manufacturers flip? They're like, look, California and all the other states have different rules are going to sue the Trump administration if they say you are not allowed to have your own rules. Well, that's going to take years and years. Then I don't know what car to produce. Do I need to produce a car that's really fuel efficient, a little fuel efficient, or don't worry about it at all? That ruins certainty, which is not good for business. And then the second problem is, if California wins that lawsuit, then I got to produce two different cars for the ones that are in the progressive states that actually care about their health and their climate, and for the backward states who don't care. Well, that's an even bigger cost. So they're like, no, don't do this.
You know what I would argue would be good for business? First of all, fuel efficiency, fuel economy is something that consumers look for when buying a car, right? So why don't you just do in this case, take a look at demand. And demand indicates that people want to spend less on gas. So make the fuel efficient cars and ignore the Trump administration. I mean, I think it's going to actually help their business to do that. Look, are there people who like the SUVs and the muscle cars and all that? Sure. And so maybe you still, maintain some of those vehicles. But fuel efficiency for practical working class, middle class Americans is important.
And you'll save a lot of money, which leads us to the answer of why are they doing this in the first place? So their slogan is "Make cars great again." But it's funny, right? But the car companies say, "But we don't want this.
We don't want to make cars great again." They didn't say that.
No. So always look for the money. Whenever I always try to explain things in a way that you don't need us anymore. When you read the stories, you can see for yourself, right? So in this story, I'm like, okay, where's the money? Who is pushing for this behind the scenes? Because nothing gets done, unfortunately, in this corrupt government, and I don't just mean the Trump administration, I mean overall, since money is taking over politics, without some donors pushing for it. And in the middle of the story, you have your answer. The previous rule would have significantly cut the nation's greenhouse gas emissions while saving billions of barrels of oil. Ding, 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 ding. We have our answer. The oil companies do not want you to do this. They don't want you to do it way more than the car companies don't want it. The car companies are going to adjust. They're going to sell cars just like they did with seatbelts. They're going to make plenty of profit, but you're going to use a lot less oil. So oil companies like ExxonMobil, but also the Koch brothers, who are also involved in the oil industry, etc. All those companies who have given a ton of money to Republican donors go, no, do not make cars more fuel efficient. That is the very last thing they want. It might kill the planet, but hey, they're going to make more money if they sell more oil.
That's always the motivation at the end of the day.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a quick break, guys. We're going to come right back. At least one last fun story for you guys. And by the way, in the post game, I want to tell you another. We mentioned Ivanka Trump. Donald Trump spoke out about Jared Kushner. It's a hilarious story.
Oh, I don't even know.
So I want to talk about it in the post game. tyt.com/join to become a member and get the post games. We'll be right back.
See anyone you recognize? Maybe something you're curious about? It's okay. No need to be ashamed. I think it's normal to mull over the macabre from time to time.
I mean, it just goes to show something about human nature. Why would we rather her had killed, 650 people than these awful ways?
I mean, this is like your Leatherface chainsaw, like a boogeyman.
I think that a lot of these people were like, you know what's more powerful than the president? The person who kills the president.
There is a dark side to human nature that we all want to explore. So, you stay up late, reading about what happened, how it happened. They would have shown all these girls that were being held captive if they had played it on a video cassette player, but they said we didn't have a cassette player, so we didn't. They couldn't get one. As soon as they went to go check out Ed Gein, well, it became
pretty obvious that he had done it.
Yeah, it wasn't even sly. Yeah, you walk into Ed Gein's house and you have walked into Ed Gein's house.
The media wants to find a boogeyman. At the end of the day, they want to find an answer that they can pin something on, even if it's not the most accurate or correct.
I absolutely think that the parents are hiding something. Right. Something's not adding up about their story. The Anchorage Police Department said that her lifestyle left a lot to be desired. Even though they interviewed Robert Hansen, they still were like, you're a slut. Statistically, we've all met someone who's murdered someone. It's murder with friends. Don't be scared. You're among friends.
Do you hear the thunder rolling across the land? That's Godoy the Gavel. The Chief Justice here. This is Trump breaking the back of injustice. He makes the call.
Can I jump in?
No, you can't. He takes the shot. I'm for it. We have to start somewhere. Don't try to pull the wool over this man's eyes, or you'll end up with a mouth full of wool and an ear full of reason. You don't realize everything after. I actually wasn't that sure. Music inspired me. Without this judge, Jesus was persuasive. Great discourses would be torn asunder. I think she has a strong case. Strong case.
Breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is Brett Ehrlich with Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. Bernie Sanders wants to break Wall Street, and he wants to break it real bad. Welcome back to another episode, another week of The Damage Report. I am John Arola, and we've got a newsgiver show for you.
John McCain is a lifelong Republican. This is not a political statement against Republican power. This is personal.
WL Old School Sports, that is right on the towel. I am Rick Strom, the executive producer of this very fine show. With Stephen Ince and Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is in it. It's just no question. I can't believe it's the best. I can't believe it.
All right, back in the Young Turks, Lauren writes in on Twitter, are the U.S. car manufacturers planning to never sell overseas again? We bailed them out. They need to honor their deal. So that's a great point. The rest of the world is already advancing to those standards. And we did bail them out. Of course, there's no strings attached. So that might, sad day for us. Now they don't owe us anything. Anyway, Resistance is Fruitful, that's fun, says, would it be too much for corporations to just do the right thing without having to be regulated or told what to do like a classroom full of first graders? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. They have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit. We need to change that. If we don't change that, they will crush everything in their path to make every red cent.
I mean, I heard, though, that a good way of finding alternatives to regulation is like Yelp, for instance. So, instead of regulating them, we can just leave bad reviews, and then corporations will do the right thing.
That'll show.
Yeah.
That'll show. All right.
I don't actually believe that's stupidity, by the way.
That's libertarians.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So let's move on. Keith Abloh is part of Fox News' A-Team. He is a body language expert, self-professed body language expert, and we make jokes about him a lot. And so we missed a story about him in mid-July that I wanted to bring up. And look, these are allegations that have not been proven. I want to be absolutely clear about that. And Keith Abloh denies these allegations. But apparently a woman has filed a lawsuit against him alleging that he engaged in physical sexual conduct with her and encouraged sexual conversations during treatment sessions and rewarded her with free sessions. Now her lawsuit seeks damages of at least $500, and she was again, he completely denied this.
So for a long time, I've been making fun of Keith Abloh. Got somebody tied up in a basement. Here are allegations of sexual misconduct on the therapist couch. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. Okay. Now, all right. Now, put the kidding aside, guys. I need you to stop your party attitude. Okay. By the way, there's a fun conspiracy theory about me that I want to share in the post game.
Oh, of course there is.
Oh, of course there is. You're going to love this one. I'm apparently an agent of a certain country. We'll figure out which country that is. There's a lot of twists and turns in this theory. Anyway, that's the post game for the members. Become a member of the Young Turks by going to tyt.com/join. Okay, and then you'll get all the Young Turks shows for a low price. Okay, now back to Abloh. Guys, I'm not sure he really did it. And, we're just kidding around. We're not like the right there. I know that he's got somebody tied up in a basement. That's okay. So, even in this case, we can't help ourselves with being fair. There's something a little off. And look, no one knows. At one point, they'll sort it out. But if you stay longer than you do the compliance, different issues, different women, that's a red flag.
It's a red flag because the other case didn't have evidence to back up the claims.
Yeah, the other case was about medical malpractice, and the Medical Malpractice Commission tribunal in the state already dismissed it. They're going to pursue that case anyway. So it might be an attorney here that sees some dollar signs. Here's a guy on TV. So it is curious that different cases of the same guy. So there's some red flags around it. It doesn't mean that he didn't do it. And so I have no idea. And that's why you got to sort these things out in court.
He also alleges that he had some sort of order, no trespassing order against her, and he secured that order 2 years ago because she had been harassing him. So that's another thing that could be a red flag in my eyes, right? But we don't know the identity of the woman. We don't know all the details of what's going on. So we just want to be abundantly clear that this is not like some black and white issue.
Yeah, we just want to have a tiny bit of fun by pretending that he does have something. But look, if you get to a super serious issue and you don't know until you see all the evidence, did he actually have a restraining order, or if he claims that he sent her non-stop sexual messages, which are investigations. But it's Keith Abloh, though, it's hard to question because he's not just a fucking he's not
also, here's the thing. If she wasn't really thinking of it anyway, she would be able to tell even without the verbal treatment. Literally said that. As far as I know,
look, I can tell you're lying because I'm a body language.
You know, he said, I'm addicted.
Let me get to it. Okay.
We're running out of time. Let's go. The 60 minutes. We're doing a terrible job covering that. I know we're never going to see you again. We need to join with us. 2 weeks ago, you told us it was a song and beat by evolution. We were told you teach
with the WWE his brother's home fish off the UC was through. What is going to happen at the time? Look at the rating. You got to miss your dogs.
And not only that,
You got to believe it's the next decision. It's going to be the deciding one. For the time, in less than 2 minutes, no, this can't happen.
That's there in a nutshell the difference between the two parts. Okay, so if you want to get a t-shirt, make sure you check out shop2YT.com.
That steel chair shot from UT. Look at Triple H, that Wolverine is incident right towards you. Big Boss trying to cross and make the cover. There's no referee. Big Boss lost a lot of blood. He's no referee. Big Triple D. And you're right, there's no referee in sight. And we're under 1 minute to go. To the score time. Oh, what a match. The World Heavyweight title on the line.
Tuesday night,
Here, Big Boss, look at all the strength he's got. Every fiber in his thing.
Monday night, the most just press out for come and make their final
This is the referee killed him back to the ring. Jesus, manhandle, killed him. Come on, time. They killed him back to the ring. What was time of that? We got 20 seconds to go. They killed him back to the ring. Triple H has been knocked down on the field. Come on, no, touchdown. Ring the bell, touchdown. No, ring the bell. He wants to ring it down. No. But 5 seconds to go. Against the wall. It's been wrong. And throwing. And quick. Been wrong.
Here is your winner, and still the World Heavyweight Champion, Chris Benoit.
What a match! I can't believe this! An unbelievable match! The gladiator mentality! I've been the greatest athletes in the world today! They gave it everything they had here! But Benoit has overcome the odds! Wait, look at this! Eugene, what are you doing? I thought Eugene had quit! I thought Eugene was done, but that was not to be! Oh, what a night here! Benoit is still the world's heavyweight champion. It's all about the heart, Benoit. You're damn right. You got plenty of heart. And you'll meet Randy Orton at SummerSlam for the world's heavyweight title. Kevin David, look, standing right here on our announce table. Does Eugene have any idea what he's done? What he's responsible for? I know these fans in Pittsburgh are standing because they know what they have seen here. Benoit retains the heavyweight championship of the world. Take another look at how it finally went down here. Oh, the game finally went down. The game had that challenge given to the Nation. But somehow it ended up in the hands of Eugene, and he busted the game. And then Eugene helped the referee in the ring. Look at this streak. How did he do that? Look at this streak here. Look at this unbelievable streak. And then Eugene made sure the referee was in a position to make the 3 count. And look at Eugene standing in the background. Benoit retaining the world title. It's all about the heart and the guts of the Rabbit Wolverine. And Eugene's return to Raw has been earth-shattering. I can't believe what I've seen. All I know is that Triple H abused and embarrassed poor Eugene, verbally and physically, assaulted this person that Triple H thought was beneath him. And now Eugene has foiled the Evolution plot to win the World Heavyweight title. The most unlikely superstar, king of the WWE, has literally foiled the Evolution plot. Yeah, Eugene has single-handedly cost that man the game, Triple H, the World Heavyweight Championship here tonight. Well, I can tell you this. Triple H has paid for his sins. The retribution for that man, in my view, is my God, long overdue. Long overdue.
get down on a fries and more deal. You can do so many different combos. There's one for each mood you're feeling. Famous seasoned fries with your choice of small drink, chicken sandwich, fully loaded cheeseburger.
All right, welcome to Rebel Headquarters. We've got some great guests for you guys today and some important announcements. We're going to do the announcements in the second segment, so don't miss that. Some really, really great stuff for you guys. And I want you guys to participate. I want you guys to ask the candidates questions. I'm going to tell you how you can do that in the second segment. But joining me in studio now is Claude Taylor. Claude, great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you are the founder of Mad Dog Pack. This is a super fun pack. Now, normally packs are not great things. Two exceptions, Wolf Pack and Mad Dog Pack. So
technically we're a pack, not a super pack.
Right. Okay, good. Good to know as well. So tell the good folks at home, what does Mad Dog Pack do?
Primarily, we do anti-Trump billboards. We do anti-Trump air banners. We've done them across the Midwest. We're heading to New Jersey to do an large, what I call a huge-ass air banner. It's 30 by 100 feet. It is literally the largest air banner that this plane has ever towed. And it's just enormous. And it's going to be all over New Jersey, the Jersey Shore, Atlantic City, around Bedminster.
Yeah. So I want the audience to know that huge-ass air banner is a technical term.
Yes.
It's just, that's just what they call it in the business.
We're working it with Guinness. We actually believe it is the world's largest impeachment banner.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I thought you were going to say the largest banner ever in the air.
Well,
that I'd be surprised by.
According to two pilots that have so far, because we're passing it from pilot to pilot, depending where it is, according to them, it's the largest banner they've ever seen in their industry.
All right, that sounds fun. So why, what does it say on it?
Impeachment now.
Okay, well, that's very clear as well.
I can show you a visual.
You have a huge-ass banner here?
No, I don't. I have some bumper stickers.
Oh, I see.
It basically looks just like the bumper sticker.
By the way, I actually think I've seen these in L.A., which is unsurprising. Here, let's see my one shot. See impeachment now? Yeah, I'm almost certain I've seen it, actually. Well, so, man, you've got a lot of press coverage, and here you are. So,
Devin West.
Okay, this is the version of this.
This is just our version of this.
I like your version. Your version is fun. It's a little artsy. Okay, so where do people find this?
MadDogPack.com.
So MadDogPack.com. So
we have a lot. A lot of swag. We have a lot of fun with the swag, but honestly, the whole purpose of the swag is to fund the air banners, to fund the billboards.
So I want to get to the funding because I find that really, really interesting in terms of the model. Before you get there, why New Jersey?
Every single one of us.
Well, because of Bedminster. Because of Atlantic City, because of the Jersey Shore, because it's summertime, so we're taking advantage of every weekend between now and Labor Day. So we're going to be flying the huge-ass banner on a lot of public beaches. Midwest and New Jersey.
And Bedminster, by the way, is where Donald Trump's golf courses are, and he goes in the summer a lot.
Right, it's sort of the summer version of Mar-a-Lago, which we will be covering later in the year when he returns to Mar-a-Lago. We have probably our most recognizable traditional billboard at Mar-a-Lago that is just like this. And that's your
So, how did the idea come to you to do billboards? You started with billboards, right?
We started with one billboard.
I'm going to get in touch with Michael and Trevor.
Reptilian member of Congress, Matt Gaetz,
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So on Twitter, this started as a Twitter thing. I'm known as at True Facts Stated on Twitter.
What's up, homie? Man, things are kind of fucked up right now,
Gates.
bro.
Everyone heard
It's
about
all
his,
good, nigga. Who better have a fucked up situation than a fucked up fool like me? And that's what the fuck I want to see. Hey, look, I'm coming to your crib to get your ass.
Like his father got him out from several other DUIs, and there's all these times that charges were never pressed, and he refused a blood test, which is normally an automatic suspension. It wasn't in his case. His father was speaker. His father was speaker of the Florida State Senate, I think, at the time. Very important local politician. Any number of things. I mean, the guy has a dead roommate story in his background.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
I don't know either. But anyway, so we just rather than going with the dead roommate story, we went with a DUI. So we basically put a huge billboard up of his DUI photo of his mugshot.
Oh, that was the first billboard, not about Trump?
That was the first billboard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so then
I bet he loved that.
talked about one of my billboards.
Oh, of course I did. That's what
Then we did a lot of anti-NRA billboards.
Oh, I love those.
No problem. The NRA is a terrorist organization. But we were doing impeachment now, right off the bat.
Well,
I mean, we started doing that. I mean, we have billboards in like 18 states right now.
Hell yeah.
Wow. You put the 3 billboards outside of Ebbings, Missouri to shame. You got 18 billboards.
Well, 18 states. We've done upwards of 100 billboards. That's amazing. And some of them are rolling billboards. Then now we're doing air banners. So it's all kind of in the same genre.
So when did Solar start?
We got our promissory note, our letter of intent, in early December.
So you ain't the mercurial
Hasn't arrived yet. The first check is not arrived, but we're expecting it any day. In the absence of that, we have gotten about 7,000 individual donors that have contributed to the PAC. And then many more thousands of people have bought a T-shirt. We've done things like, you remember the challenge coin the White House did? Because they were so proud of their dictator summit. The Korean one?
Yeah.
So we did it where he solved. Where he got played by a 28-year-old psychotic dictator. Whatever.
Yes, that's right. This is a mental mix. I don't know that.
Well, yes.
That's a little bit. Fucking heads right again.
Yes, I mean, his frontal lobe is turning into Swiss cheese. So, he's clearly got it. Watch a video of Donald Trump 15 or 20 years ago. It's a different person. He's relatively articulate. His vocabulary is just degraded. It's like incredibly. I'm sorry, I'm sidetracked. But anyway, we made a coin, a takeoff on their challenge coin. We sold 20 grand of it within a week. We'd only designed one side of it. We figured, well, we just sold 20 grand of this coin. We better design the second side. And then we sold another 20 grand of that. That challenge coin. I mean, it's 40 grand. We sold this fake coin. That is paying for our Mar-a-Lago billboard from now through the election.
Okay.
So that's I just want to connect those two. The swag is fun, and people joke about it, and all this stuff, this T-shirts. This stuff is paying for a lot of billboards.
So, I get how it's now beginning to, it's sustaining itself, right? And people like it, so they give you money. And some smart groups like PCCC does that. They'll do an ad, which is a really tough ad against a Republican, and they'll say, we like the ad funded, and we'll air it, right? And so this is, you're doing that here. But did you have money in the beginning to put up the first billboard before it took off?
No. Well, actually, no, we didn't. We did the first one. We did with a GoFundMe. Okay, and because I was sort of, people knew who I was on Twitter, as True Facts Stated. We got a lot of issues with that GoFundMe campaign, and they got basically the trolls started flooding GoFundMe with complaints, saying that we were actually going to steal the money. We weren't going to put up the billboard. So it took us it was clear that GoFundMe was not going to give us the money quickly. So I actually had to put it on a credit card until GoFundMe came up with the money, like a great. So I mean, that was our first billboard. We've learned a lot, and basically what we've done is Mad Dog Practice. We've created our own GoFundMe. Yeah, for this purpose.
Yeah, no, bless your heart. That's American ingenuity right there.
Yeah, we're also doing it internationally now, and we figured out how to do that, which is a whole. We've never been able to sell T-shirts to Canadians, and this whole time.
No, the Canadians are notoriously anti-T-shirts.
Well, it's also because we're a pack. Anything we take in is a political constitution, so we're legally prohibited from selling a T-shirt to a Canadian or to an Australian or to a Brit. And lots of them wanted them.
Right.
So we've created a separate entity, a for-profit company with its own website, and we are now selling the same T-shirts to the Canadians and to the Brits.
You should be careful there now, but it's making their cars. But anyway, what's that website?
That is nopriorrestraint.com.
NoPriorRestraint.com. Okay, we throw around that time. You say impeachment now, and you're literally putting up on billboards in America and stuff. But there's some people, including probably Democrats, who say, whoa, don't do that. That'll actually, it's not the right time.
Well, they can get the stuff.
Okay, well, there we have it. All right, go ahead and get stuff.
Right. Well, yeah, that is the answer. The man's a traitor. And that, in my opinion, needs to be front and center in November, and will be every day between now and then, and November until he's gone.
Why do you think so?
Why do I think he's a traitor?
Yes.
Well, the whole collusion conspiracy with the Russians thing.
Yeah, some say they're not convinced. Why are you so convinced?
I think the evidence that we've seen, the June 9th meeting, everything that has flowed from that, the number of, my mom is Russian. She's pissed she wasn't invited to the June 9th meeting.
But she shouldn't feel bad. Neither was the director of national intelligence for us.
Okay, yeah, but he's not Russian. Every other Russian in New York was there. Anyway, I think there's lots of evidence that's coming out. I think the reason why Trump clearly is so freaked out with he knows what he's done. He knows what he's conspired. Mueller has it 6 ways from Sunday. Yeah, and that's what we're going through right now.
I'm with you. All right, Claude Taylor, everybody, maddogpack.com, and I just love that it's crowdfunded, that you guys have raised $500,000, and that you've gotten people to pay attention to it, and you did it outside of the system without asking anybody for permission.
Thanks. So we're going to do our first anti-Putin billboard in Kiev, Ukraine. Stay tuned for news about that.
Okay, Claude's last appearance on the Young Turks Network. You're a brave man. Just be careful, okay?
I didn't say I was going to do it personally. I'm going to have someone, a company,
but you are the title of the organization, Mad Dog Track. All right, Claude, thanks for joining us. Thank you. All right, we'll be right back.
Shit show. They're throwing everything they got at us. If we can take this, they'll have nothing left. I got this guy. Oh, I'm feeling it over here. I'm tossing him out. Hey, we'll get through this. Hey, that should be all of them. Look, let's recruit by a big loading bay.
Oh, looks like we did it.
Shit, for now.
Exactly, for now.
So, what's next? Huh? We're just gonna wait around until someone else comes to kill us, or are we gonna wait till this fucker gets turned again?
Fight me. Ain't anybody getting turned again. You know it.
Hey man, the way I see it, we only just begun to clean this shit up. We got a lot of old friends I think need to be re-educated.
A lot of friends. I mean, things could get really messy.
No, we just gotta silence a few noisy people.
Hell yeah, LBC, there's
Steve Haynes.
Dave Norton.
No, we need him alive. Why? So nobody fucks with us afterwards.
What about that triad motherfucker? The one that think you two boys is dating? Shit, you know he bound to come back.
Yep, there's that.
Well, who's the guy who set up for Mark?
Stretch, you want to throw him in?
Trevor will throw anyone in just to satisfy his bloodlust.
Whoa! Hey! Hold the fucking loose end, alright? If we're gonna be men of peace and tranquility, we tie up loose ends.
Stretch has been a liability.
They were gonna have to take care of
Alright, back on our headquarters. I have a number of announcements for you guys. We've got primaries in the U.S. Virgin Islands coming up this Saturday, August 4th. So, gigantic primaries on August 7th, but I wanted to make sure that you didn't forget the Virgin Islands if you live there. Nina Turner is going to be in St. Louis this weekend.
But look, I got you on
stopping for Cory Bush, a wonderful Just Democrat, one of the first Just Democrats ever. It's going to be this Saturday, August 4th at 1 p.m. And it's going to be at 904 South 4th Street in St. Louis, Missouri. So please check that out. And on Monday, August 6th, we're holding a special Rebel headquarters where we are going to have at least 9 Just Democrats that are up for election the very next day. It's going to be at 5:05 p.m. Eastern. Now, here's the fun part. First of all, having all of them on in one show is already super fun. You've seen a lot of those folks. We've talked to a lot of them. Some of them have been on the show. In fact, James Thompson is flying in from Kansas as we speak to be on the power panel tomorrow as well. He's going to be in hour 2. Cosplay Cortez is going to be in hour 1 of the power panel tomorrow. But another fun part is that you guys can send in questions for those candidates. So send in your questions now at rebelhq@tytnetwork.com. Okay, and we'll pick among your questions and we'll ask some of the candidates. So email in your questions at rebelhq@tytnetwork.com. All right, now let me go on to my next list. Joining me now is Tamboree Borelli. She is running in Washington's 10th district. First of all, welcome. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
So you are not running as a Democrat. You're running as an independent?
Correct. An independent progressive is how I'll show on the ballot.
Okay. Well, I like the sound of that overall. So is there... Let me put it this way. Why did you decide not to run in the Democratic primary?
Sure. So in 2016, I ran as a Democrat as state senate, and much like many are experiencing now, unfortunately, the establishment aspect of the party pulled out of retirement a veteran of the House and the Senate to run against me. They would rather the Tea Party Republican win again than a Bernie-crat, and that wasn't hearsay. That was actually what was said. So, there's a saying, first time shame on you, second time shame on me, and our district is it's ready for independence.
Well, actually, Tamboree, I just want to be clear about this statement. Actually, Bush said, shame on you, take it for you. I just want to get the correct version of that saying. Anyway, no, seriously, I want to dive into that story you just told a little bit more.
Sure.
I get that they ran a more establishment candidate against you, but did anyone ever actually tell you that they'd rather have a Republican than someone as progressive as you?
Well, the person who actually recruited this very well-known Democrat was on the executive board and actually told someone that I know, we can't have a Bernie-crat get this seat. So they literally, This woman was an 84-year-old woman, lost to the incumbent 8 years prior, and tried unsuccessfully at least twice to regain her seat. So they knew she probably didn't have a chance to win, but they just didn't want a Bernie crack to win.
So did she wind up losing?
Of course she did, yes.
Of course she did. So,
I'm moving on Hayes. Let's see if you can
why?
pass into his radio
It's a funny question to ask. I know why on a macro scale, but in the state of Washington, which is a fairly progressive state,
a city of saints,
why this visceral reaction against progressives?
And nothing in between but the FIB.
Sure, but Cenk, you know as well as I do, and many other progressives now, Dorothy, Gasquet, Sarah Smith, they're experiencing the same that I did in 2016. It's enough to have to fight against your opponent rather than fight against your own party that is supposed to be there to lift you up and be everything that you need in order to win. So, unfortunately, that's the state of affairs. That it's still that battle between the progressive and the old guard. No matter which district there is, there's that tug of war still happening.
So you have no primary. So you're actually going to go to the general election.
No, actually it's different. Unlike, say, for instance, Tim Canova, where because he's running as an independent, they have a close primary there, so he goes straight to the general. Unfortunately, this is the only case that I'm not happy with. We have jumbo open primaries, but it's anyone. It's anyone, the top two, anyone can run, and whoever has the highest of those two goes on to the general.
I see. And so in Washington's 10th district, you have a Democratic incumbent, Denny Heck. So in a normal circumstance, he'll probably go forward. The question is, who's going to be his opponent in the general election, which allows people to vote for whoever they think is their favorite candidate to take on Denny Heck. So you don't have to worry about, am I splitting the vote? Because
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I might add that this particular district was gerrymandered and cut specifically for Denny Heck in 2012. So it absolutely leans Democratic.
Got a location on Devin West.
The Republican will get about 30%, but this year is different. Anything can happen this time.
So, what are the what are you running on policy?
Sure. I came into politics supporting Bernie Sanders, obviously. So, Medicare for all, expanding Social Security, debt-free college, and trade school, federal jobs guarantee. My platform is extensive. It has at least 23 to 24 policy issues ranging in the gamut.
So, I know that a huge issue for you is getting money out of politics. You were involved in a couple of those movements. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, and of course that's the umbrella issue, because until we do that, we will never be able to have a democracy. That when we can get money out of politics, then everything else that we're battling for has an avenue to actually get past the legislation. So, yeah, getting money out of politics is first and foremost.
And so, did you start a local chapter of Represent Us?
Yes. So, actually, just right before the campaign started to heat up, we started a chapter here. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to put too much time into it of late because we're doing like 20-plus hour days. But yes, as soon as things settle down a little bit, we're going to get that going strong.
Yeah, you can help them a lot when you're in Congress. So
exactly.
That's right. That's a great way of getting money out of politics. And I know that you were at Democracy Spring as well, where we all did civil disobedience. You and I were both there to fight money out of politics. And I love every group that's actually fighting to get money out. Represent Us is definitely one of those good guys. Tammy, let's go back to how you're going to win. So who else is in the race? Is there some significant Republicans? Are there other Democrats?
who are you competing against?
Hey,
trying to
unless
get
you got
into the
news
top
from the
two?
Foundry team,
Sure.
I don't want to be
So,
disturbed.
This is the good news. There's 4 people running. Other than the incumbent, it is myself and a Republican and an independent centrist. So the Republican and the independent centrist literally showed up on the scene about a week before we had to file with the Secretary of State. So neither of them had an FTC report or had any type of social media or campaign footprint. So there really is no base there. And to be honest with you, the feedback that we're getting is we are pulling from those in our district. You know, a lot of Bernie people did kind of go the opposite route and vote for Trump just because they were so disheartened. So likely, and I'm hoping that we will take a few from there, take a few from the independent centrists, and definitely progressive Democrats. We have overwhelming support from them. So, you know.
Yeah, well, look, you actually, is a rare situation where I think an independent has a decent chance. Because, and look, it's very tough sledding normally, but you've got, based on your description, you've got 2 people to the right of you who are going to split the right-wing vote a little bit more, right?
Exactly, yes.
And Danny Heck is almost certainly going to move on, so you don't have to worry about at least having one Democrat on the ticket, right? So that's in the general election. So that would definitely happen. So that allows progressives to vote for you with a totally clear conscience and gives you a shot at getting into the general election. And then they'll have a choice, if that were the case, between a normal Democrat and someone really, really progressive. That would be correct. Would that be a great choice for all general elections?
And Jen, by normal Democrat, you know, and let me just say about my opponent that he is the epitome of the bought and sold corporatist Democrat, from voting for war 10 times, voted to deregulate Wall Street multiple times, gave our Fourth Amendment away, allowing the NSA to spy on suspicionless Americans. You name it, this incumbent has voted for it.
Well then, Godspeed to you. Give him heck.
Let's get the heck out of Congress.
Yeah, let's get him the heck out of Congress. I like that. Tambourine2018.com is the website. Tambourine2018.com. And that's how you can volunteer, donate as well. I guess, Tambourine, you're not taking corporate PAC money, right?
Not a dime, Jake.
Okay, so then small dollar donations of volunteers make those victories possible. And as you guys see, obviously with the races that are going on, victory is eminently possible. And perhaps even imminently possible in this case. All right, all right, Tambourine Borelli, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, guys, we're out of time. We got fun stories for you, including Donald Trump dumping on Jared Kushner. That is a super fun story. That's the post game. TYT.com/join. Become a member and get all the post games and all of our shows. See you then.
The C